David Magee,
Yes,
thank you for coming in.
it is my pleasure to be here.
So, you are a mentalist,
I am.
which I don't really know what that is,
Okay.
but in my head, this is what it is. It's like David Blaine and a body language expert.
Pretty good. Yeah. I think that's actually a pretty good description of what it is. Yeah. It's a hard thing to explain to people. It's an even harder thing to brand when you're doing a show, because everybody's heard of an illusionist. Immediately they know an illusionist. They think of David Copperfield. They think now of Chris Angel, who really, I guess does a lot of different things. But magic, that's the thing about magic. That magic is like a big house, and there are a lot of different rooms in it. There's the illusionist. There are manipulation acts that never say a word but just produce doves and candles and cards. And Lance Burton was a tremendous performer, and I think one of the best ever in Las Vegas, manipulation act. But he also did illusions, so he broadened his career and his opportunities by doing that. But he started out as a manipulation act. Sleight of hand, there's up close, and then there's mentalism. And then most people immediately, for some reason, think when you say I'm a mentalist, they say, "Oh, are you going to hypnotize me?" I don't even see the correlation between the two, other than the fact they just don't understand it. Now, one thing that helped with it, the other thing I get from people, and they'll say, "Oh, like Simon." There was a show on CBS called The Mentalist, and he used his skills for working with the police, and he worked in the police department. So I think that's what most people think about it. So, yeah, to say a combination of, like you said, a magician and somewhat a body language expert. So kind of the two are merged together to create the perception that you are reading a person.
Got it. So take me how you got into this and how, because that's not it's not a normal career path.
No, it's not a normal career path, nor did my parents ever think that either. My hands are very soft. And when people ask me how I got into it, I tell them that I hated manual labor. My father was an Irish immigrant with a fourth grade education, immigrated to the United States. He and my mother, and they are always big advocates of hard work, labor. My father worked in the shipyards. In fact, he worked in the same shipyard the Titanic was built in, the same slip. And then when he came to America, he didn't know what to do. He became he got involved with sheet metal and air conditioning. So he knew metal and working with that, in the shipyard. So that was a good fit for him. And with a fourth grade education in Shreveport, Louisiana, he built that business into an amazing business. He built it out of hard work. And so I had that to look at. And I was never good in school. But it wasn't because I wasn't smart. I was smart, and as all my teachers would say, he's very smart, he's very clever, but it's kind of like an ADH thing. He's way ahead of the crowd. I would make good grades on things and memorize everything, but I'd lose the information. I'd retain it really, really well. So I always wanted to be the class clown. So that's where it started. And my father, it's important to note, my father was an entertainer in Ireland. He worked as a comic singer and Irish tenor, and he worked in the clubs during the war. So that's something he loved, but he got out and didn't do that when he came to America. So I got into I read a book when I was young out of the library, and it was basically making a hairpin vanish. And the way that it would do it was you'd take a little safety pin, and you'd pin it up in your shirt or your jacket, and you'd tie a rubber band to it, and you'd bring it out and tie the rubber band to the end of the bobby pin. You know what a bobby pin is, right? For women putting their hair and stuff. A lot of people don't these days. So you would take it, and of course that's running down here, and they never see it. And you'd take it, and you'd say, "Watch," and you blow, and it would just suck it up your sleeve. Well, the response that I got from that was it was like a drug. And I can honestly say in this business, I've never done drugs. I've never drank. which is really strange for
I don't drink either.
100% Irish, because everybody laughs like my dad was a major drinker when he grew up before he came to America. And so I got hooked. I really did. I loved it. And I kind of got away from it. And then college came along, and I was going to Centenary College. I first went to Louisiana Tech, but my dad pulled me out because I was too much of a clown there. Got back to Shreveport, went to Centenary. They did a talent show. And they said, we need some people in the fraternity that represents us to do some. So I started brushing up on stuff and did some magic. Well, then I really found out, wow, people like it. And girls liked it. And I thought, well, that's unusual. And so I just kind of went from there. I was on a vacation with my wife before we were married, going to the Bahamas. And we stopped into a comedy club. A friend of mine said, you've got to see this comedy club. It's great. Had no idea who was there. Guy comes out, does his stuff, opener, and leaves. Now, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the amazing, and I thought, the amazing, that's a weird way to introduce a comic, comedy magic of Paul Kozak. Well, this guy comes out on stage. And when I say he owned the stage and he owned the room, it's an understatement. I mean, the place went wow. And I'm sitting here watching cigarettes go up his nose. I'm watching a pipe and then 5 pipes. I'm watching a canary jump out of nowhere. I'm seeing these candles. I'm seeing this tequila being produced out of a bottle and then vanish. And I'm just sitting there watching it. And I turned to my then girlfriend, poor wife, and I said, I would love to do this. This is what I would love to do. I love this. This is really cool. I never knew it could be combined. Another form of, one of the rooms in the House of Magic, comedy magic, right? And sadly, a lot of comedic magicians do stuff that's a throwaway, but you have some great ones like Mac King in Las Vegas. Mac is a tremendous performer, comedic, one of the best. You had Michael Finney, Fielding West, just to name a few. And I got a very good friend of mine right now in Vegas, Mike Hammer. He's a comedic magician, getting ready to start things back again. It's been a tough year, but he's also tremendous. So I really fell in love with it again, but this time it bit me hard. So I came back to Dallas. I went to a magic shop and met a guy there named Mark Roberts who owned it, and we got to be friends. And long story, it started growing from there. I was working at a company in Dallas by the name of Interstate Battery Corporation.
Yeah, small business.
Yeah. Yeah. Norm Miller was the president. Got to know him. He worked with his son, Scotty. And I was in marketing. And I'd been there I was there a total of 8 years, but the first year they asked me, what is your goal? One of the guys. And I looked up on his wall and I saw an outline of the United States on a plaque, and it said most dealers set up. And I said, I'd like to have that. Oh, well, that's kind of a little high, which to this day still blows my mind that someone would discourage you. Yeah. I've been doing this 9-10 years, he said, and the only reason I got that is because we had a slow year last year. All my guys couldn't go out, and I was on the road, and I got lucky, and I was thinking, wow, he doesn't have much confidence even in himself. He's the head of marketing. So he says every 2 years, and next year is a year, we have a convention. It goes around the country. All the dealers come in, and we give that award out. And I said, well, that's my goal. That next year in San Diego, I walked up on that stage and shook Norm's hand, and he gave me that deal. I had set up the most dealers. Now, people have asked me over the years, how did you do it? And I share with them, at that time, I would go in and I would sell the person on me, not the battery, not the product. I got them to like me. I'd go in and I'd be showing them. I can remember one time that I was in a place and we drove up, and the idea was you'd fly into a different city every 2 weeks. They'd pick you up, the dealer. He'd have a guy ride with you, load up the truck. They'd set them up. You'd go in, sign it up, get them into the deal. And the guy, we drove up to a big parts store, and he said, oh, don't even waste your time going in there. I said, the guy's name was Joe. I said, Joe, why would you say that? Well, we've had guys go in there. In fact, the last guy he went in there, he was so mad at us for setting up other accounts around him that he just cursed the guy out of there. And I said, wow, really? Just give me a few minutes. So I go in there, The minute I walk through the door, this guy sees me. He starts yelling, get out of there. And I said, look, I wanted to stop by and show you something cool. I said, and he had some clients sitting there and customers. And I said, do me a favor. You got a quarter in your deal there? He says, a quarter? I said, yeah, in the cash register. Would you take it out? And there was a guy standing there smoking a cigarette. And I said, I'm going to make a deal with you. I know you're mad, and we've got a new program, and I want you to hear it. It's made just for parts stores, all right, so that you can't compete even with the people that we're competing with, that we have as clients. He said, well, yeah. I said, I'll make a deal. If I can take this guy's cigarette and stick it through your quarter, and you can sit there and take a hit off the cigarette, you let me put a full rack in here, and you give us 90 days. Guy goes, well, that's easy to win. I don't know what the scam is. That's it. And if I don't do it, I'll give you a full rack myself. Well, I'm sure that Interstate would have had a croaked if they'd heard me say that. But guy took it. I put it in his hand. I put the cigarette on there. It warmed up. I said, do you feel it getting warm? I said, yeah. I said, that's because, the nickel that's in the quarter. And I said, they don't put as much nickel as they used to, the heat. And I took it, and I put it up against it, delaying it a little. I said, did you see it? He goes, no, it didn't do anything. I said, no. I said, did you see it that time? No, it's not doing anything. I said, well, I'm going to have to do it all the way. And I pushed the cigarette all the way through. Now it's halfway through. And he just sat there, and I put it up to his mouth, and he took a hit out of it and blew it. And he went, no, country boy. He yells at the guys in the oil bay, you got to come see this. And I turned around and looked at Joe, and I went, yeah, bring in the batteries. Yeah. Brought in the batteries, brought in the agreement. The last time I talked to them in that area, it was in St. Louis. The guy's been a dealer now for almost 30 years. So I realized quick, I was going into areas and getting numbers every week. Guys would come back and go, how did he go into Baltimore and get 30 accounts? Nobody's got 30 accounts in Baltimore. I was using sleight of hand and magic. So the important lesson in that for marketing people, I think, is they're not going to care as much about your product until they care about you, obviously. It's redundant, right? We say it all the time, but it's so true, and most people forget about it. So they were liking me, and I was freaking them out. And the guys at work kind of knew. They had an idea I was doing something because I'd mess with the guys in the warehouse and stuff the week I was in. So this went on for 8 years. Came home, my wife and I got married. I said to her, I am so sick of this. I said, they're not going to take me off the road. I'm breaking records. I'm outselling everybody. They told me they'd take me off after a few years and I could train and do other stuff, but I'm doing too good for them. They're not going to do it. I said, we talked and so we came to agreement. And this was at the time they were really getting well known. So I had a really good, 401k started and investment, and they matched. Were always extremely, extremely generous to their people. Always good. Norm always was big about that. And I took that money that I had, took it out, rolled it into something else, and I just said I'm gonna go for it. So I started basically doing restaurants, bars, anybody that would let me come in and do a couple hours for probably a couple of $100, for people.
And what year was this?
Oh my gosh! Now you're really pushing. It was in the early 90s. I'm thinking. Early to mid 90s, I guess.
Okay.
Early to mid 90s, somewhere in there. And my wife worked at an antique place in interior. She was an interior designer down in the design district in Dallas. And I went down there that day and said, I don't want to do it anymore. She said, what do you want to do? I said, I want to be an entertainer. And she said, then do it. How great is that? Seriously.
Yeah.
We'd only been married a few years, and she said, do it. You love it. So it just took off. It was a catalyst for me to get into meeting people and say, well, look, we're doing a corporate thing. Would you come in and do a corporate? And, of course, I didn't know what to charge for that kind of stuff. So I'd throw out a number, and they'd go, oh, that's fine. And I was thinking, wow. In the first year, I was making more money than I'd made at Interstate.
Wow.
And so then I met a guy, my first mentor. I started doing – when I went to work, this is important to say. Before I left Interstate, they saw the potential in what I was doing. And, in fact, years later on a flight from Las Vegas, Norm and I were on that flight when I had been working in Vegas at a consumer electronics show for a company called Cobra Electronics. and he'd seen me on the floor performing, and he came up to me on the plane. He said, "Look, I knew you weren't going to be there long." I told him, I said, "This guy's got way too much talent." Because I'd sit at a bar and play the piano because I didn't drink, and I'd play the piano and make up songs about everybody at the place, and people were dying. So I had, there was a lot of improv gifts, and so anyway, what part? I got off of this for a second. I was where was I?
Mid-90s.
Yeah, but I was
just start working for yourself.
Yeah, they got me into doing trade shows. I didn't even know what a trade show was. So this is amazing how your life, the direction it comes into play. And so I said, they said to me, "Look, we think it'd be a good idea if you went to the trade show and worked it's the boat show in Chicago. Why don't you go with the guy?" And so I went with him. And at the time, I didn't even know there were people that did this for a living. And so I went there and I saw the opportunity, and I took some stuff with me. And as people were walking by the booth, they knew Interstate, it's new, but I'd take out some cards and start doing something. Well, the next thing I knew, I had 10 or 20 people piled around me. And I'm going, wow. And then I'd turn them over to the guy, and he'd start selling them stuff. And so they got wind of that, and they said, "Well, this weekend, of course, I didn't get paid anything extra for it. We're going to send you to Baltimore. They're having another one of those, and we're going to have you do it. So, hey, do some of that stuff there." So we put up a little deal. I put on a tuxedo, goober, thinking this is what magicians do. I didn't know. And I had the great opportunity to meet probably one of the best trade show guys, businessmen, and performers that I had ever met, and his name was Harrison Carroll. And Harrison was my real first mentor, and he lives in Buffalo, New York. This guy was like amazing. He had the business end of it down. He looked like a CEO. He talked like a marketing director. And I went over and watched him, and he's tying all this product knowledge in. If you think that's amazing, you ought to see what we do at Kentex, and we do the blah, 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 blah. And I'm thinking, wow, this is brilliant. He's tying in the product with the demonstration. How genius is this? Like infotainment, right? And he'd have these big crowds around him, and he was doing cups and balls. And so I took that, and we had lunch one day, and he was so kind to sit down and help me. And he said, "First of all, ditch the tux." He said, "Second of all, man, you're really funny. Use that. You're really quick." Well, we became really fast friends. And that a month or so or two later, that's when I left Interstate. And I was doing those deals, and I was still doing restaurants, and I said to him, "I want to get into trade shows. How do I do it?" So he told me kind of what the pricing structure was, sent me an agreement to use, which is one that I use to this day almost, and changed it up, and a contract, and helped me through everything. And the next thing I knew, I was doing 5 or 6 of those a year. And he said to me one day, he said, "Look, you're not going to want to continue doing those doing those restaurants and stuff. A couple of $100, but you go out and do a trade show and make $4,500 for 3 days. It's like, wow." And he said, "You want to build on that." So over the next couple of years, I did, and I was at the point where I was doing about 40 or 45 trade shows a year, every type of industry, from consumer electronics show to the International Home Builder Show to the Internet Show. There were every type of show, SEMA. Automotive, aftermarket. And what I would do is I'd learn a little about the product, and I'd be up there doing my deal, and I'd read somebody, and I started doing more and more mentalism. I saw a guy at the show by the name of Tim Conover. Tim was one of the few guys doing what we had called mentalism. And I mean, this guy was slaying people, all right? And I never liked the idea or the approach to mentalism that you were really reading a person's mind, all right? I didn't want to make them think there was such a seriousness to it, right? So I said, I want to do it different. I want to be lighthearted, all right, and take it but still knock their socks off. So I took what I saw him doing and added my personality and improv into it, and that was the start and the basis of who really influenced me on mentalism. That was the first time I'd really seen it, and then I started delving into it and just really, dove into it far and research, studied, and man, it was amazing because I'd be there with a company like Cobra Electronics, all right? And Cobra is was the number one maker of CBs, Remember CBs and family radio service, the little family radio where they start. Well, consumer electronic shows you've ever been, it's a monster show. And everybody's trying to get their attention. Well, that's where I sent one day and I looked down and I saw Mark Cuban in my audience. And I was from Dallas and I was like, oh man, that's Mark Cuban. Well, he was just with the Mavericks and he was just starting out with the stuff he was doing with the HD net or whatever the other thing. And I was like, wow, man, that's amazing. And met him afterwards and talked to him, and he was getting ready to start doing a show in town called the Mark Cuban Show for tied in with this deal. Excuse me. I knew that Mark wasn't going to be happy with just that, and I knew that would turn into something like the thing that he did a while on TV about the millionaire, you be a millionaire, and then that lasted a season, I think, and then he went into Shark Tank. Mark is good at that type of stuff. I think he plays well on television, and he does a great job, right? And so he said to me, I'd love to have you on my show. Would you like to come? And I'm thinking, wow, this is great, and at that time I was doing some of the primetime country stuff. And I will say at this point, one of the guys in my business, several of them, told me, they said, we see what you're doing with the trade shows for corporations, and you tend to get these celebrities to give you these testimonials. You really ought to be going for corporate testimonials. I said, well, I've got some of those, but I think, several of them, even Harrison told me, well, I don't think that's a great idea. Well, he told me later, he says, you were right on with what you did. I saw early on that we were going towards, in our culture, a deal where celebrities had a lot of. When I started seeing Bill Gates become a celebrity, he was a business guy, I went, something is changing.
Yeah.
Right? And I saw the culture, and I really give a little credit to myself to see that I was ahead of that, because I had all these celebrities, and they were like, well, what does that have to do with trade shows? I said, nothing, but it builds credibility. People are going, gosh. In fact, we had a couple of times in my office, my gal would tell me she called a company back and asked them, we sent a promo to them, and they watched the promo and they saw these big names, and Terry Bradshaw and Sinbad at the time, and all these names. And she said, oh, we just didn't think we could afford him. It was, you haven't even asked us what his price is. Would you think, well, he's got to be a lot of money because he's got all these big names talking about him. So it works. It really does. Now, sometimes not to your advantage in that case, but we actually got that company. We told them, well, here's what the price is. Oh, wow. They says, yeah, it's not that, that unaffordable. So, and it grew, and doing the trade shows. And then from the trade shows, I started doing a lot of corporate one night shows. Same company at the trade show would say, look, we're doing an event for our marketing group. Want to have you come in and do a deal for us, an hour show. What would that be? So I started coming up with a number for that. So the next thing you know, I kind of got out of the trade shows because there was even more money in the one night gig. You could make as much in one night as you did for 3 days, And so I started that. And that brings us to the casino, where that started to open up. I had a guy here in Dallas. He was a radio guy, and his name was Wally Lynn. And he was real big in radio, sports radio, very well known. He and Richie Witt and a couple other guys. And he said, I'd like to start working with you, and I've never seen anything like what you do. He said, and I tell you what we should do. There's this new big casino, and it's called Winstar, and they're right up the road. He said, let's go up there. I'm going to get a meeting and show them what you do, because I bet these people would build a show around you. I go, oh, Wally, they're not going to waste their time. He said, no, let's do it. So we did it and went up there, and that day we went in, we met with a gal, a lady and a gentleman. She was in charge of marketing, sat down in one of the restaurants with them in the back, and I sit there and just blow them away. I mean, they're fried, absolutely fried. And she's just going off. And then she says at the end, she goes, well, I think I should let y'all know this is my last week at the casino. Wow, really? I just blew you away. But I'm going to be consulting with them, because I'm part of, my family is involved in the casino. My husband is involved. He's a tribal member. Oh, and so we started talking, and we put together a showcase to do in Grapevine at the Grapevine Palace Theater, and brought all of them in. So we hired it out for 3 weeks, and we actually did some shows there too. And we did it. They came, were blown away, loved it. And she said to me, I've got an idea. I said, what's the idea? She said, I want to put you in front of 3,000 people and let them see what you do. Well, that sounds good to me, too. I said, isn't that what we're shooting for? Well, no, we're going to do it a different way. I want us to put together a game show. I said, a game show? I said, I don't want to be a game show host, you know. And oddly, I've talked to Chuck Woolery recently, who was a game show host for years, Love Connection and a bunch of those. And he said, Dave, I was an actor. I said the same thing, and I almost missed out on the greatest opportunities and money in my life, which is an important thing for people to realize in our business or any business. If you don't allow yourself to diversify, you're going to pigeonhole yourself. So here's a person saying, you're fantastic, and I want to put you in front of 3,000 people. So I said, how am I going to showcase my talent as a mentalist? She said, that's your deal. You got to figure it out. I pick up the phone, and I called a friend of mine that I'd known for years who was the biggest consulting in magic, Johnny Thompson. You can look him up online. One of the big 75% of Penn and Teller's show is from Johnny Thompson. He'll tell you that. David Copperfield worked with him, Siegfried and Roy, all the big names, Lance Burton. Everybody went to Johnny. He was the guy that was backstage on the show Fool Us with Penn and Teller that was in Penn's ear, telling him what was, going on. And this is a huge guy. I called him, and I had always told him if I ever had an opportunity, I was calling him and using him. Well, we worked it out. And he's like, Dave, I'd love to work with you. So he came in. We sat down. We went to Vegas, Michelle and I, got in a room at the Mirage, closed it off a suite for 3 days. Stayed in there and ate and everything. And we worked 8 hours or more a day. We came up with this show, and it worked. It would interact with mentalism in my entertainment. And we would do an illusion to produce me at the beginning of the show. So we wanted it to be unlike anything they'd ever done. And what we were working to replace, Nathan, was they had these big hopper that they'd roll. And every 6 months, all the people that had won big at the casino would come in, they'd throw their name in there, and they'd roll this thing and take a name out. Judy, you just got $300 cash play. It was boring. And Michelle said, we've got to get a better way. So we invited, in the first game show we did that we had with Johnny, we had 3,100 people show up. A guy did an interview that day that was there to do an interview on it. The line was almost a mile through the casino. The casino's a huge casino. It's called the world's largest casino. And it took forever to get the people. We kind of got them in, did the show. It was amazing. They went nuts. Had never seen. We gave away a couple of $100,000 in a car, Cadillac.
You were Oprah.
Oh, yeah. I was Oprah. Exactly. And I came home. I told my wife, I said, that was the most amazing thing. Well, it was so good for the casino. They came to us and said, why don't we start doing 2 of them, like a Friday and a Saturday?
Dang.
Oh, okay. And why don't we start doing it once a quarter? So every couple of months, well, this thing, for 8 years, we held the largest, held the largest record on revenue for the casino for 8 years. I'm talking over Rascal Flatts coming to sing, or any Jerry Seinfeld or whatever. We all 3 of us, Michelle, Johnny, and I, all working together, built one of the most amazing deals that had ever,
I think if the Rascal Flatts updated their hairstyles, they could probably do a little better.
Yeah, Gary needs to do this. You hear this, Gary?
The frosted tips. It's time to go.
No, they're gone. They're done anyway. They retired before COVID. And so, you're right, though. It's just amazing how everything has gone. And that pretty much brings me to, and then we picked up the Riverwind Casino, and then.
So take me through the actual deal structure of that. Like, are you getting paid per show, or are you getting paid over a 1-year contract?
Yeah, no.
How are you structuring it?
We have we sell it to the casino. So it's our, 1 weekend type deal. And we had about 24 people with us that made it work. People in the green room, and then they provided the people that took care of paying out the money from the casino. But no, it was Michelle and I, we created a company called Crazy Socks. My dad always told me, no matter what you're wearing, always wear crazy socks because women always love socks and it looks classy.
Or wear no socks.
Yeah. Either way, flesh-colored socks. But no, so we called it Crazy Socks Productions, and we put together a great crew. My voice guy was Gary Lee, is Gary Lee Love out of Beaumont. Gary Lee is in the Hall of Fame of radio DJs. He is a tremendous, I just call him the voice. He's got that, Judy Erickson, come on down. I mean, it's just like, the echoes through the bowels of the casino, So, he still has he does a show down there in Beaumont still.
So you pretty much just started a production company.
We just started it, yeah.
Yeah.
And put it together. We used their AV, their sound, their AV. We worked with those guys, Mike Fouché and Chris Brock, who were on our team that did a fantastic job. And then we had our guys backstage. We had, my wife actually ran the backstage area. Of course, the headsets and everything back and forth. I mean, it was all cued. And then after a few years, Johnny was getting ready to retire, not from consulting, but his act, the great Tom Sony that he did. And I said, Johnny, I got a great idea. Why don't you retire the act for the last time in front of a paying audience or a paid gig at the casino? And he was like an 8-minute act. And he goes, that's a great idea. And said, in fact, why don't we, because it was always just introducing me. I said, we'd started out like an illusion type deal. Ladies and gentlemen, David, one of them was, there'd be a big gray box. And you look right through it, nothing. And all of a sudden these lights would start twinkling. And then the form of my body, almost like a skeletal type thing, started to form. And I would just fade in right into the deal. It was like from nowhere. It was the coolest. It was called a Pepper's Ghost Illusion. Johnny had created it. We had Tommy Rubino in Las Vegas build it. And so the beauty of that was I said, Johnny, why don't we start doing an opening act for every show? Now it's a game show. What about the people that don't get to come up on stage? Because we'd have 30, 40 people on stage, but what about those people that don't get to come? We want to entertain. He goes, that's a great idea. I said, let's do it. So I started bringing in acts. One of our greats was Paul Ponce. If you ever get to see this guy, I never liked.
Spell his last name?
Ponce, Ponce.
Got it.
Paul Ponce from Spain. Unbelievable. He's had several appearances for the Pope, like for 100,000 people. I mean, this guy, 7th generation juggler. But when you think of juggling, and I think of juggling, I never liked juggling.
I just look at it.
No.
That's what I'm thinking.
Oh, no. This guy is in my opinion, the best in the world for what he does. Speed, entertainment out. He does a thing where he throws 6 or 7 hats into the audience, jumps off a 8-foot stage onto the ground, catches the hats in midair, keeps going through the audience, doing 7 hats.
I wish we could throw it up on this TV, but our computer's down.
Yeah, well, I'm telling you, you can see this and catch it, and I'll get you a link to it. The most amazing. And then we had Posh and Alona, or the quick change artists, who just blow the place away. We even brought the Alade dogs that won America's Got Talent. Yeah, the dog act. And so we had all these great acts, and people now are fighting for the chance to get a ticket to come into the game show. And it is just, it's on fire. I mean, it's doing great. And then going, and then COVID. So they're taking this time and doing some structural changes and things. And I think within about another year or so, I think we'll be back at it strong, but we want to branch that out to other casinos now. And that's what our goal is on out, not in this market, but around the country. So it's been an amazing ride.
How many hours are you practicing a day?
So I'm going to be completely and totally honest with you. I have a friend of mine in Las Vegas who is now our new consultant since Johnny passed away 2 years ago. Charlie Fry, who in my opinion, and also Johnny's, as he told me a year before he died, I asked him, I said, Johnny, if anything ever happens, who would you recommend? I said, you're going to be here 100 years, but who would you recommend? And he said, I believe Charlie Fry is the next great general practitioner. And what that means in our business is somebody that can do everything. They know lighting, they know music, they know staging, they know illusions, they know close-up magic, they know mentalism, they know it all. And that's a hard thing to do. But Charlie is the same way. Very creative and a great act, Charlie Fry, in company juggler, but a comedic juggler. And in my opinion, he is the best in what he does. But he's an amazing guy. And so Charlie practices every single day. That's why Charlie Fry is so great. And I sit and watch him and I go, holy smoke. I mean, he blows me away, you know. And my job is to blow other laymen away, people away, but he blows me away. And so to answer your question, I set it up for that because I'm not like Charlie. I don't practice every day. I do. There's an old adage in our business when people ask how many tricks or things should I know. And it is that there was an old magician and a young boy that came up to him after a show and said, Mr. Magician, I know I can do 50 tricks. And the magician was saying, wow, that's great. How many do you do? He says, well, I do 5, but I do them really, really well. So my show, quite honestly, there are certain aspects to the up close gaming and gambling stuff that I do and the mentalism that I pretty much rely on. And those are my go-to deals when I want to blow somebody away, when I want to level them. So I've been doing it so long that I do sit down and play with it some days for a little while, but it may be a week or two. When I'm working on something new, a lot of hours. I'm constantly honing it, trying it, and then you have to put it into the show because the last thing you want to do is get something, learn it, put it in the show halfway and fail or not do that good. But when you do it in the show, within about a year, you live with it, you're going to learn a lot of things about that particular piece. You're going to hear people. Some of the best lines that I get are from audience members. And I go, wow, that was a great line. I'm going to add that into this. And so you have to learn to listen.
Yeah, because I was watching the documentary Dealt with
Richard
Turner. Richard Turner.
Yes.
And I became obsessed with this guy. Like, you can ask my wife. There isn't a video of his I have not watched.
Yeah.
Just
in blind.
blown away. Yeah, and he was saying that, you know, he shuffles cards for 12 hours a day.
And he does.
And I mean, it's just him shuffling cards is crazy to begin with. But
he sits there and does it. I've never seen the man without a deck of cards in his hands.
And so I see that. He lives in Texas too, right?
He lives in, I believe, San Antonio.
Okay. I could probably get him on. Yeah. So anyway, I saw that and I'm blown away by that. And the type of dedication and commitment that takes. And that's why I asked that question of just like what on your end, because there is, I was shuffling about an hour a day.
Right.
You know, Zoom calls, conference calls, whatever.
Sure.
And I can do a bridge well.
Right.
You know, nothing
Right.
else. I can't cut it one hand, nothing else.
Well, you know, and again, it's how much time do you want to put to? There are guys in our business that's just, and nothing against it. Nothing against it. It's just, and it's not that I don't love the art and don't want to excel at it and get even better and better.
But you want to have a life.
I have a life. I had a friend of mine, I won't mention his name, he's in New York, and a friend of mine and I both know him, and the guy can't go anywhere without a deck of cards. You know, and I take him to meet Penn and Teller at his show, and he wants to show Penn and Teller a trick in the green room afterwards.
No.
Dude, no. You got to be kidding me. And Johnny almost killed me for that one because, you know, he's like, what are you doing bringing this guy? I said, I didn't know he'd do that. I have a life. But again, I want to preface that by saying nothing against these guys that do that. That is their life, a big part of it. And I think they do other things too. But there can become a time when you need to step back. And I have to be honest with you, a lot of what I do, and Charlie and Johnny, I think, would both tell you this, that improv is a huge, huge part of what I do. And you can't practice that.
Yeah.
It's knowing what to do, when to do it, how to do callback.
Is there ever an issue of running out of material on like when you first started? Because like I did an open mic one time and I had like 5 minutes, and about a minute in I was out. And I was like, all right, this didn't go as planned.
Yeah, you can. Fortunately, the nice thing about Magic is you have something to help you compensate for the cards, coins, dice, books, whatever you're going to do. There's so many there's so many different kinds of things that you can do. And with technology, Magic's making some major changes too. You know, people are using iPads to do stuff, and it's just really bizarre. I just think you have to have your set and build off of that.
Yeah.
Because quite honestly, if you ever see me do up close stuff, a demonstration, a gaming demonstration, like at the end of a new show that I do, it just, I mean, people
and
get
is that
up
with
scream.
cards? Is that
Cards, dice, chips, coins? Yeah. I mean, I don't know if can we do anything on this?
Yeah, sure. I would love to experience this.
Do you have a shot glass?
No, I have cards.
Do you have a small glass?
Yeah, I think we probably have a small glass.
Get me a small glass, and I'll show you something just to give you an idea. Now, I always have to tell you also that everything I use, I think it's pretty important to explain to people that everything I use, I let them check it out. Now, when I do this for people, those are 50-cent pieces, okay? When I do this, cool. Sometimes I use it for poker chips. And this is a table, so you might hear a little something. It might talk a little bit. But since I've been sitting here, you might have thought to yourself, well, he's put something under the table to help him. Yeah, that should work. That should work just fine. Yeah, I can make that work. Yeah, no problem. I can make that work. So it's your table, my coins, but you check them. You make sure that everything is good with them. They are 50-cent pieces. And I always tease people and tell them that these are JFK.
All right. Are we on this camera? You can see it? Okay, perfect.
JFK. And I like those. You know, they're educational. JFK, I'm from Dallas, and he came to Dallas once. So watch close. If you see 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now, I always tell people that this is done a little differently. I'll explain it to you. I explain to people when I'm doing it, for instance, for a lay audience, if I said, this is why I explain that I'm not a magician. All right. First of all, a magician will not let you check the props for the most part. All right. And I just ask you to do it. In fact, I'm using 2 items that are yours at the table and a glass. And the second thing is they will never, ever tell you what's going to happen. They use the element of surprise. All right. If you lose that, you have nothing. And number 3, they never, ever, under any circumstance, repeat anything. All right. So this job is not to make these, you're an adult, you're educated, you're analytical, and I'm not going to insult your intelligence by making you believe in any way, shape, and form that these are going to go through this table. That's impossible. It can't happen. Watch. My hand goes to the edge of the table. I'm going to cover those up. Now imagine those were $1,000 chips from the casino. And it's my job as first base. If I'm playing first base, I have a swing guy and an anchor. It's my job to dictate what the level of play is going to be on betting. Now, 90% of the time, they would have the dealer involved in it, all right? Want to move it over here? Okay. So I'm going to show this for you and explain it to you. I would come across the stack if I had off-counted. Counting is not illegal. The casino has the opportunity to ask you to leave if they suspect or detect that you're cheating, all right? But counting is not illegal. It's just, it's a great tool to have, but they don't want you to do it. And I would come across that these are $1,000 chips, and I'd come across them, and I'd hit the stack. I'd knock the bottom one back, come into hand before the eye in the sky could see it. Now, you have cameras here which would play the part of the eye in the sky. I'm going to cover it. I usually use a shot glass, so I've never done it with one of these, but watch it very close. I'm going to lift the glass. How many do you see there?
4.
There are 4, right? You see them all 4. I'm going to lift the glass, comes back, just like that, hits the wrist, goes into the hand. I'll slow it down and do it again for you. Watch it close. All right? I'll repeat it. I don't know. We'll see that. There's the one. I'll do it right here. Solid, solid. And we've got this one right here. You can hear it. In fact, I think the camera can see it. We're going to see if we can cover those up. We're going to lift the glass back just like that. Its wrist goes into the hand. I'll do it again. All right? Worth doing one more time. I always tell people at this point, the more you drink, the better it looks. Watch close. 2 and 2. I'll cover those up, lift the glass, comes back, hits the wrist, goes into the hand. I'll do the last one. Now, of course, you're watching it really close. Now, the idea here is to beat it, and I don't know if the camera's going to see this or not, but watch from left hand to right. That's called a muscle pass, all right? If the casino thinks that I'm cheating and I go across my stack and I say, hit me, I couldn't get it sick, but usually it's not a felt, and I come across it, hit me, I can add onto my stack. The eye sees straight down. It doesn't see the depth from side to side. So when I place a coin in one hand and shoot it, it shoots. Here's the move that you're not seeing. When I shoot it from one hand to the other to get it from the hand of the casino so the eye doesn't see it, you can actually see it being shot. You know, this is something most people never see, and that's reverse gravity. But when I don't want you to see the move, that's what it looks like. It goes that quick. So there you go.
I love this so much. Yeah. Okay, so like
visual.
I do the same thing. I walk into a meeting. So I own two companies. One is a power solutions company called Rabbit, which is these kiosks that rent power Brits. They go great at casinos, bars, restaurants, hotels, anywhere people's phones die. Think about bird scooters, but for charging.
Right.
And so I'm not really involved. I'm a high up there, and I have a head of business development sales. We have a bunch of contractors, and our goal, like, I'm not in the day-to-day selling to people.
Right.
But I also own an agency. And so if somebody's going to pay us $20,000 for a website or $100,000 for a piece of software or whatever, they want to meet with me, they want to meet with my team, whatever. And I walk in there, and the first thing, I'm like, work with a lot of gun companies. I'd shoot guns. That's awesome. Oh, you like to shoot guns? Cool. Let me take you hunting next week. Let me take you to a gun range next week. Exactly. And then I say, hey, do you play poker? I host a monthly poker night in Nashville. I think, it's $100 buy-in. It's nothing crazy. It's just a lot of good entrepreneurs, a lot of our clients. You should come. So all I focus on is becoming their friend. Because used to, I would focus on, we're really good at what we do. We're the best at what we do. Everything we do is custom. Everything's in the USA, blah, blah. And nobody cares. It's like, so they just want to know.
Less about you, more about them.
Yeah. And most people don't know quality. So it's like, if I say ours is better, they're like, well, they don't know what looks, I always say, nobody can dispute that iPhones look good. Like, they can dispute if Androids look good, but it seems like Apple, people this is like a standard. So I like to think of our websites that way. But the point is, it's not something people value. And so they're going to just do it based on relationships and know that, okay, if I give them a check, he's going to give it to me on time, on budget, and exactly what I want. And so I found the best way to do that is just card tricks and everything else. Right. So it's so funny that that your intro to this is from a sales perspective.
Yeah. Oh, no, it is. And the thing is, people, there's one thing that I can tell you that I think is so important. People love to hear the sound of their own name, without a doubt. And so what I do is when I do the shows, I'll use probably 25 in the hour 10-minute show. I'll use 25, 30, depending on what I open the show with. Sometimes I can use 80 people during the show. Actually, 80 people, because the first bit that I do in some nights uses 52 people, like a deck of cards. But generally the 25, 26, 27 people that I use that are up with me, that are interactive, I recall at the end of the evening their names. And I'll be talking when I'm doing a thing, when I'm blindfolded with a lady drawing something. And I have the chance to talk to the audience. I'll say, as we started this evening with Denise and Tom were so helpful with the demonstration that we had, and I appreciate them. Just like Larry and Charlie and his wife Valerie and blah, blah, and I go through all these things. That alone to them is like, so that solidifies.
Tell me how you learned that, though. I mean, how did you?
Well, I don't know. I can't tell you. I really didn't do one of those Rick Barry courses, or, Marshall Silver, or, this friend of mine, Greg Leeson, that does a memory deal. I didn't do any of those deals. I just say the name over. What I do is I spell it when I talk to them, and people wonder. And I love it because the theatrics of it, they go, okay. And now they're talking about going in a rabbit hole. They're trying to figure out everything that I did on the way home. And I've heard people say to me that were in the car, that were friends, well, the name thing has to have something to do with it. Because when I meet them, I say, what is your name? And they say, Judy. And I say, Judy. But if it was I, oddly enough, I always get it. And I go, it's Judi. Yeah. I say, wow, that's strange. And then I say, what is your name, sir? And they'll say, Ricky. Or Donnie. The other night I had a deal in Louisiana. And I said, is it Donny? And he says, yeah. I said, not IE. He goes, no. I said, okay, Donnie, Donny. Do me a favor. Now, they think that it has something to do with some psychological, perceptual thing that I'm getting in their head. And it doesn't at all. But I love that they think that, because it sends them a different direction than I really want them to go, I'm always getting them to chase ghosts all during the show. I try to take it in a different direction so they don't see it coming at them. I always tell them all through the show, things are never what they appear to be. And that is a running theme throughout the show.
Now, if you mess up on a trick,
outs.
You mess up, you already have the backup for the mess up, right?
Yep. Always have an out. Always have an out. And, as Johnny used to say, sometimes purposeful mistakes will pay off dividends. Purposeful mistakes. Because if you're going through a show and everything in mentalism is happening perfect. You got the guy's dog when he was 10 years old. You got the kid next to him on his right-hand side, little girl in class. You got the cards from everybody that they were reading. You read them, and you got this and that. Sometimes it's important that if you miss a word, like say if the word was picture or photography, and you say, I'm getting this word, blah, 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 and they write something down. You go, what was the word you're thinking of? And they say photography. And I turn it over and I say, I was so close. Picture. So you got to give me. Now what happens is they leave and they say, well, you know what? If it was all a trick, he would have got it all. So it's a subtlety that I've learned to throw in there over the years. And now they're giving me more credit than I'm even due. They're making up.
Do you ever think that your real magic is a month after the show? When it's still messing in their head, when it's still playing ping pong in their head?
I've gotten emails, I've gotten calls, I've gotten little cards. Our people are still, I did a show in Louisiana for 60 people. It was a retreat. And they brought me in, and the guy sent me a thing. He said, they're still talking about it. The next day at golf, all they were doing at the thing was still talking about it. In fact, one of the guys that was there that I did a thing with, his card ended up in my envelope, in my wallet, sealed, hermetically sealed. He tore it off, took it out, and it was his signed card. That's how I finished the gaming demonstration. Well, I had one of the guys that I went up to him and I said, you're playing golf with those guys, right? He goes, yeah. I said, here. I slipped him the card. I said, you got to take that card. Because I took the card. When I took it, I vanished the card. I said it was just here for a fleeting moment. I said, you'll see it later. So I had one of the guys, I said, you got to do me a favor. I said, take that card, on a par 3, when you go to get the deal, reach down in there ahead of them and drop that card in there before you pull the flag. Well, that guy came back to that area just at the end of the day, just screaming. How did you get that in? The guy, Tyler is his name. I'll never forget his wife's name is Jean. Tyler, how did you get that in that hole in the par 3? Just took it to an all new level. That guy, he kept it in his wallet. He'll get it. I've had people taken things and have them framed. I do a drawing replication at the end, and I always give it to them. They always come up and ask me to sign it. And I've had 2 or 3 of them send me a thing and say it's in my office and it's signed. It means something. It's an experience. And that's how I came up with the name of my new show. I was really searching hard. We tend to do this as performers and entertainers and marketing people. We try to come up with some weird, crazy name for either the business or whatever. And we work so hard to do it. And we overlook the most basic. And I thought, what am I going to do this? And one of the guys came up to me one night, corporate guy, and he said, Dave, we've had you here for 15 years. And every year it's just something different. He goes, it's just amazing. He goes, it's just a new experience every time. It's just a great experience. And the light went off. So I came back and told Barbara, said, I got the name. She goes, what is it? I said, David Magee, The Experience. That's all you can really put it on, which brings me back to marketing. That's the hardest thing to market is mentalism. I want to get away from the name magic because I just don't want people to think I'm a magician.
Yeah.
But how do you do it? It's so hard. It is a real challenge. It's not impossible, but you have to do it through word of mouth. And people go, this guy does the craziest, most unbelievable things you'll ever see in your life. You got to see it, and you're right there. That's why during this COVID, it has opened my eyes that the real way to entertain people in what we do is in small, intimate groups. We have gotten so technical that we're now in 30,000 and they call them an intimate concert, 30,000 people, and they have jumbotrons. That is not intimate. The way that entertainment started, whether it was a singer, whether it was a magician, back at the turn of the century, people would come, the socials and the elites, they would go into a drawing room in their home, or the doctors or lawyers. They'd bring in this traveling performer, opera, magician, whatever, and they would do these parlor shows, right? And there'd be 30 or 40 people. Now, you're not going to get rich unless you have a high-dollar ticket, but during this COVID, it's been a great opportunity for me to get my name out a little locally, build some following, talk to some people. And let me tell you, it's the hardest thing I've ever done, actually selling the tickets. Oh, it's unbelievable. You can't go on TV right now because of COVID. Nobody in the studios. So when you're doing a show, the only thing you have is Facebook. Well, you run out of that. Those 5,000 people or however many, even their friends. So it's a real challenge.
Do you know Justin Flom?
I know Justin. Yes, I do.
So that's my friend Jordan's brother.
Right.
We know so many of the same people.
Same people. He's in Vegas now.
Yeah, it's
he started out on doing a prayer thing for Soldier's Prayer Book with a card deal, and it was really cool, and it got millions and millions and millions of hits. He was this young, innocent-looking guy, and now he lives in Vegas, and he does a lot of these. I don't know what you call these, and I'm not up on this stuff, but it's stuff that's it's monetized on these videos, and you got to watch it for 3 minutes. So, not my cup of tea. But
I think his average audience is like 14 years old. So it's just a younger audience.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. It's all on the demographics of age. But the beauty of what I'm doing, and I'm finding it, and I didn't think it'd be this way because I consider myself an old guy now. I've got young kids. Young guys, 14, 15, 17, 8. They're so smart because of this technology now. It's not like we were. I was so immature. But they're like sitting there just enamored. So it's not like I'm an old 90-year-old guy or, seedy old guy sitting around. But I still tend to dress. I always dress above my audience. I don't wear a tie anymore. I used 2 years ago.
I got mine today.
Yeah.
I would chill.
So, well, that's the thing. And that's what most people are. But I still think it's something that most people are losing in our industry. If you don't have enough respect for yourself, then it shows and reflects that you don't have enough respect for your audience. So I always try to be dressed a little nicer, a little more that I stand out. But I don't want to look too old school. I don't want to look like I'm a preacher.
Yeah, so that's all I wear crazy suits. Exactly. They're nice suits. They look nice.
Sure.
But it's for this reason of I want when people meet with tech guys,
stand out.
People that run with venture capitalists, tech startups like mine.
Yeah.
I'm the only one who's walking in looking like this.
They're in jeans. I know. I've seen it. It blows my mind.
There's this subtle hint. Again, not mentalism, but just like subtle hint that like this guy is going to be the next Jeff Bezos.
Right.
I don't think I'm going to be. I'm not trying to be. But when I say that is this idea that when people see me dressed nice, they subtly think he's on top of his stuff.
I'm telling you, it will never lose. It will never lose its ability to plant that seed in people's minds and go, man, he takes care of himself. That's my biggest thing right now. I'm battling, working out, dropping 20, 25 pounds to get lean.
Same.
Yeah. I'm just trying to get lean because when you're an older guy, especially, and people look at you, how many guys my age are in my shape? That's the thing. Even right now, they're the big bellies. They're out of that. I try to keep myself, looking as.
I gained 20 pounds during COVID. Now, keep in mind, that's from 150 to 170, and I'm 6'1". Yeah. So it's hard to tell, but I still got to cut it.
And I'm 230, and I need to get to 200.
Cool. So, well, I'm trying to get back to 160. So
we'll work on it.
Yeah. What do you think? So I've always been a huge David Blaine fan, and not necessarily does he do magic, is he just able to push his body to extreme limits?
He's a dynamic performer in the sense of the word, that he's unique in that he does stuff kind of like Houdini. He's the modern day Houdini. He didn't start that way. He started out with sleight of hand on the street and stuff. David Blaine broke it open for TV. A lot of people don't want to give him his due. The guy was a real trend center. He did stuff, and he went into areas of people that had never seen it, weren't exposed to it. A lot of minority areas, which was great because the people, Hispanic, African American, just people, Asian, but people that never had the money or could see anything like that.
Yeah, his street magic and just walking around streets blowing people
and
away.
Just in the best audiences because these folks
go crazy.
Go crazy. And they don't hold anything back. They're not reserving. They're on the street. But there again, there's hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of filming and cutting to get those few things because it's hard. When you put a camera on people, the majority of them freeze up. I've seen it over the years. It's the weirdest thing. But so there's a lot of hours of him filming that stuff to get what he got. I have a lot of respect for him because he sticks to his guns. He keeps a pretty low profile. He's always trying to better himself. Now, would I do the things he does? No. Number one, I don't like needles, and I'm not going to drive anything through my hand. But when the guy puts the thing through his hand, he's really putting it through his hand.
Yeah.
There's no trick. There's no magic. You've got to go way back, and he's a real historian.
Yeah, every trick where he does it, he talks about the history. When he was swallowing the water and the frogs and
the
stuff.
Frogs. Oh yeah, it's all he's regurgitating. My mentor Johnny Thompson knew a regurgitator he worked with on in Chicago, and he had some funny stories to tell about that guy. But he's really holding that frog in an area. There's no magic trick to that. He's bringing that frog up in that water. I mean, it's gross. I wouldn't put a frog in my mouth, but I mean, that's just me. That's just bizarre. But he's willing to do that stuff. He goes and goes, like when he got in the buried alive and then it was in the ice, and he really does that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, he's really doing it. He pushes himself. He's a challenger to his body.
Yeah, to me.
Now, he's kind of gotten out of magic and to me in that deal to what is the name for that stuff? Performance art. Yeah. I guess. But I mean, it's bizarre.
To me, I guess he's like an extreme athlete, in my opinion, which is why I think he's like super cool, I guess. But he keeps a super low profile. And
he does.
His tour, do you know much about that?
Yeah.
So he was doing how long he could hold his breath at every single tour.
Johnny worked with him on that. How to smoke a cigarette underwater and blow the smoke and do all this stuff. All of that was with Johnny.
So he was talking about to keep stuff in his stomach, he wasn't able to eat. And so he was doing that tour. He would, it was like every 2 days was a tour date. And so he was only able to eat for 1 day. Like he was eating 3 days a week essentially to be able to do this tour.
It's crazy. Same with the bullet catch.
Yeah. That one he did in Vegas, right? So you probably know more about that than I do.
Yeah. That's very, very dangerous. I mean, it's real. It can take, how are people going to sit there for 45 minutes to an hour or 2 hours and wait till you're just ready for the perfect time? It's just crazy that they're willing to do that. That blows my mind. Yeah, can you imagine it? No way. I'll stick with coins. Worse, I'm going to get with cards as a paper cut.
Who's the highest paid guy in this industry? I don't, because I don't want to classify him.
I think probably Copperfield. He has to be. I mean, the guy's got islands. He owns islands, and he's just started back performing again in Vegas. They're doing it. He kind of started early, and they had somebody, some issues, I think, and they decided. Now
how old is he?
Gosh, don't get me lying, but 60s.
I thought he was dead, so this blows my mind.
No, he's still. I think he'll probably die with his boots on, as we say, downstage.
So if I had to guess, so David Blaine, I guess, is the guy of my generation. I'm 27.
I would say
so Copperfield would be of the generation before me.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Oh yeah, and all of it is you cannot even compare the two of those people together. But I think they have both. Listen, first of all, there was Doug Henning. You probably don't even know that name. He was the guy before David Copperfield, and Henning was huge. And then Henning got completely out of it and went off to guru some kind of guy in India and was going to do a theme park of magic and everything. So Copperfield jumped in, took it, fill that void. Well, he took it to a new level, more star, more glitzy. And then Blaine came in and took it all the way down to the street. But that's where he got his start and did his thing. So each of these guys have transformed it and changed it. I mean, you know, Chris Angel started doing stuff in the street.
I think he's the worst. I hate that dude.
Yeah, it's to each his own.
Like, that dude shops at Buckle. And
What?
shops at Buckle. Have you ever seen that? It's like the rhinestones all over,
Yeah.
he's the guy that wears the Flitchin shirts that have the cross and rhinestones.
Yeah.
And then all his like TV show stuff looks so clearly like camera manipulated. Like,
And that's Johnny was the head consulting on that with him until it got out of hand with that. And then Johnny said, I'm done. So, yeah, to each his own. I mean, I think each one has some niche, but they all have their followers. And I might not like it, you know, or you might not like it. But there are people that do. And you have to give, I guess you have to give them their upping, I guess, for that, you know.
so talk me through, you move into a new house in Dallas and you go to meet your neighbors. Do you just say, oh, I'm an entertainer?
No, I've been in the same place for home for 19 years.
Okay.
We've, yeah, in the neighborhood, people don't know. It's kind of great because I'm not a celebrity, I'm not a star, but you get treated that way when you go out and do your deal, you know.
Yeah.
And then you get to come home, and I think that's probably a pretty good deal. I remember a great impressionist that lived in Vegas named Danny Gans, and Danny passed away back years ago. And greatest impressionist ever. Had a great show. And he told me...
An impressionist is somebody who can do like a... Okay,
voices, yeah.
Can you do Obama's voice?
No.
Oh.
No. I can do Bill Clinton, but that's about it. But no, I don't really do a lot of voices. I love doing the voices, but I try to do them, but I'm not good at it. But yeah, Danny used to say, it's great because you're a big name here, but once people leave Vegas and go home, people are like, Danny who?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't have any hidden agenda. I don't have any, you know, misguided belief that I'm when I'm up on that stage at Winstar, I'm the star.
Yeah.
Everybody knows. They treat you like that in the casino too. Then you come home and you cut your own grass. You know, I've always learned, as Johnny told me, just don't have the ego, you know. And I'm at a point in my life, well, I did have an ego for some time. And you know, I gotten to a point now where I just believe that, you know, you got to be accessible, you know, and that comes, I really think, sadly, it comes with age, you know, because we all want to be the cock of the walk and the king, and we tend to, you know, our egos get the best of us. But if you can get to that point where you're, you know, always welcome, and I was always very involved with meeting guests and talking to guests and doing. In fact, my mentor Harrison saw me at a table one night in Vegas, and I was with a big client, and we were at dinner, and he had one of his clients there, and we cleared the table, and I was doing some sleight of hand, and he had seen me. So the next day he came up to me and goes, hey, I saw you doing some stuff at the table. I said, yeah. He goes, why do you give away what you sell? I said, well, Harrison, I said, the day that I quit loving doing what I do anytime for anybody is the day I'll quit. And that's the truth. And I still, to this day, I can be in a restaurant and I can do something for somebody. I'll give you a really, really good example. If you want to try this. This is the one thing that Johnny was just completely and totally blown away with. Put those on. That I would do. He just did not understand there were no outs. All right? And you'll see what I mean in a moment. I'm going to give you this, and I'm going to give you the marker. And you can go ahead and take that and take the marker and hold it up so I can't see anything.
All right, what am I doing?
In fact, I'll look away. I want you to listen real close. In a moment, I'm going to ask you to print something, but not now. Not until I actually say go. I want you to imagine that this room is full of people, older, younger, good, diverse group of people, ethnic diversity, older, younger, male, female. And a person walks in the door, and every head turns and looks like, oh my gosh, look who it is. That's how famous and polarizing this person is. Now listen to this. They can be a male, they can be female. They can be dead. They can be alive. Think of this. Think how huge this is. This used to boggle Johnny. One category, if I said dead male movie stars, I could hand you a legal pad and you could be down here for days. That's just dead male movie stars. This can be a historic person, a historian, a world leader, politician, actor, actress, big screen, little screen, comedian, singer, sports figure. But a sports figure is so polarizing even women would know, not some third line hockey player from Minnesota.
Or any hockey player.
Yeah, any hockey player.
Besides Wayne Gretzky. Yeah. I don't know one other.
There, you join the crowd. So, but listen very closely. Somebody so polarizing that everyone would know. Have you got someone in mind?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to look away boldly. So when I open it up, you, Pierre, everybody can see it. Boldly print their initials only, just so I know you don't change your mind on me. I have to have something so I know it's not the name, because they think, well, if you can see it, they know the name. But just the initials, boldly print their initials in the circle and then close that down. You can do that now. I'm looking away. That's why you can't hear me on the mic as well.
Okay.
Closed it down?
Yep.
Okay. Close it all the way down. And I want you to see that you can't see anything through there, nor can you see through anything through there. And I want you to hold your hands on there. I'm not going to ask you one question because that's what a magician would do. Now, why did I have you write it down? It's very simple. If I don't have you write it down, you might change your mind midstream. That's what people do. And in a casino, drinking comes into play. I'm not a magician. I say to people, I'm not a magician. If I was, I would kind of hint at names, male, female, this and that. But I'm going to make statements right now.
Okay.
These are statements. And just by reading you, without a shadow of a doubt, it is a male.
Yep.
And without a shadow of a doubt, the male has passed.
Yep.
And the male has been passed a substantial amount of time.
Yep.
In fact, if the male were to walk in here right now and sit down here, I want you to visualize something about him. For instance, if it were Tiger Woods, Tiger might come in and sit down and say something like, I just had a really bad accident, and blah, blah, blah. It's been a tough year.
That dude can never drive again. He's got to stop driving.
I know. And you blah, blah, blah. And if it was Michael Jordan, he might come in here and talk about how he used to stick his tongue out, or that was his kind of
how
thing.
He plays golf
How
all
he plays
the time.
golf all the time. How he was the greatest basketball player, this and that. So you get the idea, right? So imagine that the person has just walked in and they sit down and they look at you and you ask them something like, what would you say you're most remembered by? Right? And this gentleman might look at you, and remember, not a question asked, statements only. This person would look at you and simply say, I believe I would be recognized for simply saying 77 years ago. You would be thinking of Abraham Lincoln. Yeah. Correct?
Yeah, you got it.
So, and then you open it up and you show the audience, you see that you get it, and 100%.
That L is pretty bad. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah, so,
yeah.
And now, so Johnny was with me one night. We were at a big event, and it was on a show, a TV talk show. And Johnny was in the wings. He was listening. And he came up to me afterwards and he said, Johnny had this voice, Dave, I have to ask you. Look him up, some video. I have to ask you, how did you get that? There's no out for this. I mean, if you don't get it, you're out. So I'll tell you who the initials were. I didn't know until they opened it up and showed everybody for sure, but the initials were what was his name? Anyway, I can't remember it. I remember what the last name was. Anyway, so he says to me, how did you get that name? The guy was really trying to stump me. The guy had seen me do this somewhere at an event, and he said he'd been thinking about it for years. He goes, if I ever get him, I'm going to get him. Oh, it was P.E. were the initials. And when I got it, the place just went crazy. And he pushed it down, stood up. The person was Pablo Escobar.
Oh, wow. That's good.
Oh, I get crazy ones. I get G, Gandhi. I get Sister Teresa. People that's not even their real names. Madonna or but I get these things. And Johnny goes, I've never seen anything like it. In fact, he did it. My wife got him to do a little thing unbeknownst to me. a little testimonial in the green room or in the dressing room one day, and he said he'd been working in this industry for 70-something years, and he said Dave Magee's initial effect is the closest thing to real mentalism that I've ever seen in my entire career. Wow, that's the greatest thing to hear from him. It made me feel fantastic. But I think it is my thing.
How do you practice for it?
You don't. That's the truth. I have a friend of mine that tries to do it, but he limits it. And he says it's got to be a female and they have to be alive and it narrows it down in the industry, and he misses some on them. I don't want to, he goes, I don't see how you do the male or female, dead or alive.
Yeah. Richard Turner talks a lot about this, that people, when he hands the cards to somebody else to shuffle, they're like, yeah, that's the part that breaks me. Cause I have it when it's in my hands.
It may be said or something ready, but they changed everything. That's what's amazing. He's amazing. And that's, Steve, that's his thing. Being the blind issue and not being able to see. And what he does, I mean, it's just unfathomable. But it's the greatest definition of the impossible being possible. I mean, I'm telling people from the very beginning of my show, my first opening line, ladies and gentlemen, I'm David Magee. I'm extremely grateful that you chose to come this evening. I hope you enjoy the experience. Every moment in life should be an experience. I hope this is a great one for you. And I want you to know that I'm not a psychic. I don't read minds. I don't consider myself a magician. I don't have ESP. I'm not psychic. I don't talk to dead people that have crossed over, nor do I even have a desire to. And I said, but tonight what you're going to see is the closest thing to what real mentalism would look like. And when I leave there, the reverse psychology is so strong because people are coming to me and the first question they go, how long have you had this gift? I'm like, didn't I tell you? Didn't you listen? They don't. They accredit it to it because they're like, you have to be able to read minds from what you're doing.
Yeah. All right. Where do you hang out when you're not, when you're here in Dallas? Do you have a cigar lounge? Do you have a country club? What do you do?
No, I garden. I garden. I love to get away. I love to garden. I love to, I'm into that pretty heavily.
What do you grow?
Everything. I don't grow vegetables anymore. I used to have a half acre behind my house. We got rid of. And now I mostly just do the vegetation. Like I'm replacing this week. I've got to replace a bunch of ligustrum that I lost that were 10 foot tall. There were hedges on the side of the house that blocked the fence. The cold weather killed them. So the freeze. So I have to replace those. But I just love to do all types of stuff. Crepe myrtles right now are really blooming. I love those. A lot of privets are blooming. There are not a lot of plants right now because it is still kind of cool. We're supposed to have 30 degrees tonight, believe it or not. Yeah, it's supposed to be a freeze tonight. That's crazy. I've never known it to be this cold this long. And I'm hoping that means we're going to have a mild summer. Gosh, I'm hoping we sure need one. Summers are brutal. So
I just moved here. I haven't experienced the summer
yet.
So.
No. Oh, you're in store because we got humidity unlike Nashville has.
I feel like Nashville has pretty bad humidity.
It ain't here. You come out here, you put a jacket and coat, you get to your car and you're soaking. It's ridiculous. It is. Nashville might be not be in your rearview mirror for long. You never know.
No, I love
change the seasons.
I love Nashville. I mean, I grew up there.
Great.
It's such a wonderful city. For me, I moved here to build relationships.
Yeah.
That was literally my only reason.
You get to a point where you've done as much as you can,
Yeah, or the investment of time doesn't have the same return. So every person I meet with, we know 50 people.
Right.
Like you're the only person in Dallas that I've met with, and I've been here since September, where we know 20 of the same people. But besides you, pretty much everyone I meet, it's like we don't know any of the same people, and so we can help each other a lot of that way.
That's very true. Yeah, it's very true. You're expanding is what you're doing. So,
do you ever look at, you performed at all these companies, at all these casinos all over the world, I'm guessing?
Yeah.
How many countries?
I think the only one that I haven't performed in would be like China.
Have you
Russia?
been to China?
No.
Okay.
No, China and Russia, but Japan, all the other ones, Middle East. I went with David Faraday on a Middle East tour for the USO. That was great. Afghanistan and in Kuwait, and it was really cool. That was amazing, amazing experience. Yeah, that's a great memory for me. Really cool. So, but yeah, all over the world.
Yeah, so I look at it, I'm like, all right, you have tens of thousands of relationships.
Oh, yeah.
Do you ever think, how can I leverage these to raise money for charity? How can I leverage these to help people grow their business? Like, take me through knowing that you have this pocket of like CEOs and successful people. Like, does it mean anything?
Yeah, it does, but I've never had anything other than like fundraising to help people out on certain things that I've ever contacted any of those guys for. I've never been a big, I've always funded it myself if I'm going to do something.
Yeah.
You know, I never have fun. I'm working on a project right now though that's hopefully going to take place in Arlington, and with a guy, and he's involved in some political stuff right now that he's wrapping up. And, we're looking at bringing something that I think would be very, very cool to the Metroplex. And the thing I like about Arlington is this is what I ran into in Fort Worth. I do the show at the Fort Worth Club called The Experience, right? And our next one on that is May 1st, I think. And that's
Are there
great.
still tickets available?
Yes, there are some tickets available, absolutely.
Where's and I will go.
Yeah, I'd love you to come. But I couldn't do a show there and expect Dallas people to come. You'll find this out real quick. Dallas people don't go to Fort Worth, and Fort Worth don't socialize in Dallas.
So we drive to Fort Worth all the time because, like, for
you
us,
didn't grow up here. You didn't grow up here.
It's so clicky too.
Oh, it's very clicky, very clicky. And so I had to get a room at the four-waller room at the Adolphus downtown. So I was doing that during COVID. So Arlington, I feel like, is a good measure of middle. Most people will go there because they're not having to go to, you know, all the way over to Fort Worth or Fort Worth come down. So it's crazy. I mean, it's like they're going on a vacation when they go to one of these places, you know, from Dallas to Fort Worth, you know, pack their bags, you know, it's crazy. And it's not that far of a drive, but it's more cowtown with a little edge and elitism, you know, and down in downtown Dallas, totally different story, you know.
Have you, you performed for any presidents or anything?
Bush,
senior or
junior.
Did you ever
Rick
see
Perry? You know, those type of people that stuff, local. Yeah.
You ever see David Blaine take George Bush's watch?
No.
Yeah. It's like he does it where he grabs his hand. You watch it in, you know, the YouTube video. You can see him taking it off.
Pretty obvious.
And he's doing it right in front of Secret Service and, you know, takes it off. They're talking. And at the very end, he's like, you know, I appreciate the gift, but, you know, you can take this.
Yeah, I could just hear him do it. Appreciate the gift. Here's your watch back. He is the most low-key performer, and I think it plays for him.
Yeah.
It's not me. It is not me. I'm out there in your face. I'm a gerbil on crack. He's not.
I love all the like parodies of him because they're so easy to do. Because it is like it's like these weird eyes like this.
Oh, it's so bizarre. Yeah. But again, it plays for him. It's his deal. You know, it's low key. It's not.
But he's getting away from that. Like his latest, the balloons thing. His daughter's there the whole time. He's like, it was just very like him hanging out.
See, here's a great example. Is he starting to age? He's got his daughter. He's showing the family, you know, thing. I think you change. Even he will. You know, once he gets older and starts changing, he'll start changing. He'll probably still always be that, you know. But it'll play good for him when he's a geriatric because they can't speak very quickly anyway. You know, hey, you want to see something cool?
All the places. Why Dallas? Why do you live here?
Well, I grew up in Shreveport, Louisiana, and I met my wife. She's from Oklahoma, so we live in the middle. It was always 2.5 hour drive to Shreveport and 2.5 hour, you know, to Stillwater. So, yeah.
Simple.
Yeah, it really is simple. And no, I love I love being in the middle. And as I said earlier, it's great for me if I want to be on the West Coast or the East Coast or Europe or wherever. I can get an international flight and be, you know, like we go to Cancun to the Grand Moon Palace resorts, and I play down there at 5 of their resorts. We go there once a month, and usually December for the month. We take the whole month.
You mean once a year for a month?
Once a year, I'm sorry. And I go for a month. Barbara and I, we hang out, and I do 5 shows, 5 different resorts each night, 45-minute show, have a couple of nights off, and all day. Shows usually theirs are only about 45 minutes, because they want people to be out.
We went to a wedding in Cancun at an all-inclusive with top shelf alcohol. I don't drink, so
yeah.
I was like, yeah, I guess they just go lower on the food when they go higher on the alcohol.
I don't see how they do it. Because if I know people that are drinkers, and they literally have these, open the thing in the room, and they got the things hanging down. You just go up and put your bill. It's crazy. I don't see how they make it, but this is the Palace resorts are in my opinion, the best. They're high end.
Are there casinos?
There's one, I think, by the Hard Rock. But
do you enjoy gambling at all?
Not anymore. I used to. I used to like the stuff when, for instance, when you do like, and this is another thing I always tell people. Now, I'm not a magician. If I was a magician, I would come up to you and I'd say, pick a card. I'll tell you what it is, right?
Yep.
That's what they do. But that's not what I do. So I don't want you to remember the top card or the bottom card. I'm going to let the cards go by your eyes real quick, just like that. Any cards you actually see that you want to remember, just remember it. But again, not the bottom and not the top, because you see those longer.
All right. So I've been working on this trick.
Oh, have you?
And my key to it, tell me, and I know I'm doing it wrong, and maybe you can help me get it better. So again, I love doing this. I'll like at a waiting room at a restaurant. I'll just be playing and someone will go, oh, can you do a trick? And I'm like, yeah, let's just try that. Okay. So what I do is I do it where I can see the flip, where I see what's going on. And then I try to slow down on one card. And then I'm like,
you could do that. that would be a way, but I'll show you a different way.
Okay.
All right. Not top and not bottom.
Yep.
Are you ready?
Yep.
And again, if you slow down, you've got it being control or know where it's at.
Yep.
All right. No, nothing. Right. Anywhere, any cards you actually see go by your eyes. Go. Did you get one?
Yep.
Not on top. Not on bottom.
No, never mind. Redo it.
Okay. Got to do it again. Okay. It can't be on top because you'll see it longer.
Yep.
Did you get one?
Yep.
Remember the card.
Yep.
You want to do another one too? Get that one, because in blackjack you have to have 2 cards. Did you get one?
Yep.
Okay, you got 2 cards.
Yep.
Concentrate on the cards for me. Visualize. Pick either one of them that you want to get. Pick either one of them you want to get.
Okay.
You went with a red card?
Yep.
Okay. You went with a red card. It's definitely it's a heart.
Yep.
It's a number card.
Yep.
So it's got a bigger range. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. 4, 3, 2. Eliminate lower area. I'm going to have to say it's a 9 of hearts.
Yep.
Okay. So you went with another card also, though. You had another second card. Now that actually is the opposite spectrum. It's a black card.
Yep.
Higher number. Oh, it's not a number. It's a face card.
Yep.
It's a club.
Nope.
It's not. No, you're right. It's a king of spades.
Yeah.
Okay. So
or maybe it's a king of clubs, something like that.
King of clubs. Okay. I was thinking king of clubs at farts. So there you go. Totally different way. Totally different way.
You got kids?
One. He just got married in December. He just got out of college. They're getting a home, hopefully closing on it in May. They've been living in our guest house for a year, so hopefully.
Now, what did he think growing up?
I think he thought it was cool, but it was just never anything really he pursued.
Yeah.
Which I'm glad. He wanted to go out and do his own stuff. I think he's going to. I don't know what he's going to do. Got his degree in philosophy. I don't know what you can do with that, but maybe he's trying to figure me out.
So I guess you weren't super. You didn't pressure your kid into anything.
No,
if you're I don't even know what you do with that degree.
No, I didn't pressure him. He actually took one of my old books from my library, sleight of hand, and he learned something one time over the weekend, and it fooled me. He really actually fooled me, and I was like, man, that's really cool. You did good, and he fooled me. But he just never took a real, and I'm glad, because, it's a tough business. You never know. It's like, it's an entrepreneur. You never know what you're going to have that next year. You're always sitting there looking and going, oh, but listen, being independent and being your own, no matter what the business is, no large or small, it's the greatest freedom in the world, but it's also the greatest stress in the world.
Yeah.
Because you don't have that guaranteed check. But those are the people who really live life.
And do you have reoccurring? Is it possible to build a reoccurring stream in your business?
Oh, absolutely.
All right, talk. I guess, is it selling merch and
trade shows and things like that? Continue with the same client. I had some of those clients for 20 years. I've done a trade show up until last year for Lennox Heating and Air Conditioning Company for almost 20 years.
I guess I meant there's no passive.
Oh, no.
Okay.
No, there's not. And I don't really do merchandise.
Okay.
I've never been a big merch guy that have a table or anything.
Do you have any DVDs out?
No. And I've never done any of that stuff. And I've always been kind of kept to myself. The weird thing is, like I have started this new deal. And this is, now you're talking about going down a rabbit hole. I've started a new show, and it's something that I've been working on for 3 years. And it's called The Deceiver. All right. And it's basically just for church, a church type deal. But it's not the typical magic show that you see at a church thing and they talk about putting something down in their hand. This is the red blood. It doesn't all tie in. I do a 45-minute show just like you'd see at the casino. And then 20 minutes, I give explanation about how I think my life went. And I explain about what real life deception is, how I was deceived. Because I grew up in a church, but then I got away from it. And I never drank, never smoked. So I justified myself that I was a good person, that I was a Christian, but I wasn't living that at all. So I was extremely deceived in a lot of ways. But it took an event 3 years ago in my life to completely change that. And that's when I felt real strongly that I was being pulled in the direction of, okay, you got to do this. It's something you have to do. This is not about money. You've got to do this. This is your give back thing. And I've seen it be very, very, very strong the few times that I've done it just to get it out of the gate. But now we're really launching it. So I've got a guy that's handling that for me that's involved in those in a lot of big churches like in Houston at Lakeland or whatever.
Yeah.
It is. So I mean it's gonna be pretty wild.
So what happened 3 years ago?
Well, I was at my house and I gardened. And I was up on a ladder, and I knew I shouldn't have been on that ladder, and I was doing some hedges. And I said to myself, this is not the ladder that I bought for this. This is a cruddy ladder, but I don't want to walk 30 steps to get the really heavy duty that you don't need any help on. So I thought, get off this ladder. I laid the thing, quit the thing, let it go from the electric deal, the shredding or the clipper. And I stepped back, and I went to get off it. And when I did, the ladder went one way, and I went the other. So my wife does a lot. It was 6 foot in the air. My wife does a lot of welding. That sounds so butch and everything she did, but she's a great welder.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, her dad was a great builder, and she's so big into creating things. So she loves welding. So for her birthday one year, I bought her a TIG welder. So she had these big buckets, 5-gallon buckets full of cement with a PVC pipe coming out of it. And it's got like a cut edge on it. I don't know how to put that. It's like a spear edge. And she would put barbed wire and stuff in there and hold it to when she was welding stuff, right? So she had one of those out by the garage, right under the ladder. So when the ladder went that way, I went the other, and I fell down, and my body did that. And I fell the small of my back right onto that thing. I can send you pictures. It didn't have Anita. It was amazing. I knew something was wrong because I felt immediately. And I was Barbara, first thing I'm calling for my wife. 30 years you'll do that too. And she's inside, and she immediately, she just started to pray for me. And, I wasn't, she was going to church. And all of a sudden, I wasn't going. And, man, all of a sudden, I was bizarre. I was able to kind of stretch up a little bit and walk more. I was like, wow, I didn't think I was even going to walk out of here. Go to the emergency room. Guy goes, oh, we need to do CAT scan. It left a mark. It's still in my back. It's around after 3 years. He goes, I'm going to do a CAT, MRI, do the whole thing. You have to have hurt your spinal cord. And he goes, I'm going to be real honest. I am shocked that this thing didn't impale you and your wife didn't come out and find you just laying on that thing. He said, that's crazy. He said, you're just lucky. And I kind of looked at my wife, I looked at him, and it just out of my mouth, I said, no, I think I'm blessed, actually. And he was like, oh, because he was not, a believer. And where was I? And he walked out. We did all the stuff. He came back, and he goes, look, I don't know how this happened, but there's nothing wrong with your spinal cord. There's nothing, not a thing. I said, okay. He says, you're perfect. I don't get it. You're not going to need stitches. It's just a big cut. Just put some stuff. Let this heal. Give it a couple of 3 weeks, and you should be fine. Okay. I didn't hit my head or anything. Just shook me. Fast forward 3 weeks. I'm in Celebration, Florida, going on stage to do a rehearsal. Got 3 acts in from Vegas, and I'm emceeing a deal for a big fundraiser, Make-A-Wish. I've been going to for 14 years, called the Celebrity Car Exotic Car Festival in Celebration, Florida. All of a sudden, my eye, thousands of these like black little snakes start going all over past my eye. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? So I didn't know, and it kind of went away after about 30 minutes. But it was like grayish afterwards. I couldn't see real good. So we called an ophthalmologist in town in Dallas. I should have gone right then to an optometrist or a surgeon. They could have done a little laser thing, and I really believe that would have fixed it. But that wasn't in the plan. So we fly home 2 days later, get in. They get me right over to an optometrist. He goes, I'm going to take you right across the street to a surgeon. He said, you need to see him right now. You have a detached retina. Okay. So get me over to him. The guy does this little laser surgery. He said, I think that'll hold it. We'll be able to let it heal. You'll be okay. We'll watch it. A week or two went by. It was kind of starting to get dark. Went into him. He goes, no, it didn't take. Your retina's detached. We're going to have to do a surgery. I'm going to schedule you for Monday morning. What? He goes, and you're going to have to be face down on a massage table with your head in it, looking face down for 2 weeks. 24/7.
No.
I said, I got gigs, pal. I can't do that. You're going to have to cancel them or you're going to lose your eye. Okay, so we do the thing. Puts a gas bubble behind my eye. He says it'll be there for 2 months. You can't fly. It'll dissolve itself. Doing real good. 3 weeks into it. I get out of the thing. 3 weeks into it, it detached again. Go back. He's like world renowned. Go back to the guy. We have to do another surgery. Face down again. Do the whole thing. Go back in. He goes, I think you have a cataract on your eye. It's formed a cataract, which it does, amplifies it like on steroids when you have a detached retina. Goes in, fixes the cataract, just because you can't see behind it, whether it's detached again or not. Or does it, the cataract heals, finds out that the retina is detached again. He goes, okay, this time we're going to put a solid oil bubble and we're going to leave it for a year. It'll be looking out like looking out of an oil bubble in an aquarium, dirty. You won't be able to see much of anything. I said, for a year. He goes, yeah. So I had to change everything that I did. I could see peripherally fairly well, so that was helpful. But I had one eye to do my show, Mentalism. So I have to be able to see everything that's going on around me. So I had to pivot my head more, especially at the close-up table. So long story short, stays in a year, and he goes, let's take it out. Took it out. It detached again. And this time he goes, we're going to put this oil bubble and we're just going to leave it from now on. Says, if we try to do it again, I don't know. And we'll hope for the best, pray that it heals over the next couple of years. So for 3 years, I basically right now, I can see brown and I can see that light and I can see now your face if I look up like that. And if I look from the side, I can see a little more defined, but I couldn't make you out or anything. So that's it. So that time face down was the time that, and this is a very strange thing for me to share. It really is for anybody, because anybody that's listening, I'm not a person that you would call a person that proselytizes about shoves anything down anybody's throat. I'm still the same guy. I'm still me, but I have a different purpose, all right? And I realize why I'm where I'm at, how I got here, and that makes a huge difference to me now. But having said that, being face down, I went through some really dark. I mean, buddy, when that kept happening, I was like, why? Why is this happening? And it was some dark times. I mean, we have a guest house, and I was staying in there because I couldn't sleep. I got insomnia for a month, and I go 3 days without sleeping. If that's ever happened to you, I've never had that. I'm a great sleeper. But got rid of it all. And I just had to, for lack of a better terms, come to the realization that none of this was about me. None of it mattered. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how much money I have. It doesn't matter what house that I live in. It doesn't matter any of those things. That's not going to be. And when I do, I used to have a fear. I'll tell you this. I used to have a fear. I'd lay in bed at night and I'd fear like, I'm a hypochondriac, by the way. And I'd think, oh, I'm going to have a heart attack. I'm going to something. What if I die tonight? After that, never had that feeling again. I have like this real strong assurance, a peace.
Yeah, because you know where you're going.
I know exactly where I'm going, 100,000%. And I'm at the point now where I can't even believe I'm saying this because I never would have said it, but I'm ready. It happened tonight, happened tomorrow. I'm ready because I realize now this is, as I call it in my business, all this is a dress rehearsal.
Yeah.
All this is a dress rehearsal. And what is going to happen past that point is
so how old
the
are you?
most important. Just turned 60.
So you gave your life to Jesus at 57.
Totally. Completely surrendered my will. And that's the secret. It's not just being a Christian, because I was a Christian.
Yeah.
Because I was saved as a young child, but I put my eyes on men. And at my church at the time, it was a big church, Shreveport. There was a division through adultery that happened for the pastor. And I was like 19. I was like, what? You've been up there telling me what? And I blew me off. And I went into the business and I was surrounded by atheists. I never did quit believing, but I didn't have a relationship.
Yeah.
That was the secret. I had no relationship. Now it is. And it is unbelievable. It is totally unbelievable. I don't have any fear of where the next day is coming from, what we're going to do, what we're going to retire. Like our goal right now, Barbara and I are working on selling the house this year and not retiring, but moving to Cancun. We're going in June to purchase a house there in a gated community, which is 3 stories, pool, gorgeous home, 2 years Caribbean
and
built.
It's $250,000.
260.
I knew it.
Gated community. 3
I lived in
bedroom.
Mexico City for a little bit. Same thing.
Crazy.
Yeah.
But but I'll be working for Mr. Chapur in the group there, the Palace, and we're only 5 minutes from it, and it's just gorgeous. I'll be doing a show each night, but I'll be coming back and forth because this deceiver thing is a big thing for me.
Yeah. So was your wife a strong Christian this whole time?
She was always a believer, grew up in church too, but she didn't get back into it really strongly until about 2 years before that happened to me. And I would go with her to church. We go to a church called Gateway in South Lake, Robert Morris. I just tell people, it doesn't matter the church, it's the relationship.
Yeah.
Don't worry about everybody else. So I'd go and I'd be standing there like this with her. And they'd start all this, praise and worship and the hands and stuff. I grew up in a charismatic church. I was like, I'm not going back to this.
Yeah.
I'm not going. But you know what? It all changed.
God just softened your heart.
Oh, 100%. 100% changed my life. So everybody I've talked to a guy a while back that was a retired pastor, young guy, got out and got into the business world. And he told me, he said, he's been pushing me because he's got so many connections in that world. And he said, I'm not used to these words, but he said, this thing is totally ordained, what this is going to do. He said, this is going
You're learning your church language?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a church lady. So I'm learning now.
Christianese?
Yeah, that's it. But I really am seriously learning just to sit back and let God control it, because I'm not working with an agent. I'm doing. Doors are opening. Things are happening. It's like, okay, now I know what he means. and it's real important for me at this point. And then, look, I'm going to lose friends. I know by just openly talking like this and say, oh, he's crazy. He's crazy. But they know I'm the same guy. And if they don't want to hang around, how much of a friend were they? And I want to stay connected because it's important if they're not believers to me now. And again, I'm not going to proselytize, but I want to do it through living and let them see it, how I live now, and as opposed to how it was. The guy we talked about, Tim Akers, producer in Nashville, you're talking about, and that happened a year before me. You talking about he was getting ready to serve his wife divorce papers, all this stuff. And I mean, man, I've never seen a change. And that's what brought me back to saying at least, okay, it's real. This is real.
Yeah.
I saw a change in this guy, and everybody in the industry saw it. And it was like he went from this cheating. I mean, Chase, his son, knows all about it because they brought it all out. I mean, he and his wife, they brought it, and they have now, he and his wife have a team and a ministry that's phenomenal. I mean, it's getting ready to blow up. So things are happening. I would have, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, I would look back at this and look at you and said, this would never come up in this interview.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you the one thing, too, and this is the one thing that I pray a lot about, is that God would make me bold. I haven't been bold, as outgoing as I am. But now I'm getting to the point where I'm not ashamed. I'm not worried. I used to kind of lay it back and talk, even 2 years ago. I'm a Christian. I'm a believer. I don't want to offend anybody.
Yeah.
I think we're at a time in our country and the world. Number one, deception has never been bigger and more important now than it is.
But also, just stating a fact that Jesus lived a life sinless, died on a cross for our sins, and rose again 3 days later. That's just stating facts.
It's just a fact. I mean, I say to friends, he died the
you
life
don't have to
I
believe
should
it.
have. No,
it's not offensive. It's just saying
it's not offensive.
This
but
is a fact.
Sadly, in the culture we're in, it seems like it's becoming
Everything's offensive.
Yeah, but now it's becoming offensive.
Yeah,
and that's what's kind of worrisome. So what I do is I get strong in my Bible. I'll tell you another thing real quick. I couldn't, all the years I grew up in it, in a strong Christian family, I couldn't get the Bible. I couldn't get it. So I was talking to one of my mentors here in the area, somebody that I ought to hook you up with, Dale Harris. Coach Dale Harris brought Shaquille O'Neal and Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant together for the Los Angeles Lakers.
Hey, look what this is why this is so funny.
And he is one of my strong, along
this is
with
the
Troy
book
Duncan.
I'm currently finishing.
Phil Jack. Oh, wow. Yeah. He's got some strange philosophies too.
Well,
I've met Phil a lot of times and done things with him.
he's super interesting. His parents were both pastors.
Yeah.
And he's a Buddhist.
Isn't that
pretty much.
Isn't that crazy?
But then he does the Lord's Prayer after games and practices, and he quotes scripture.
There's that thing that says in the Bible about if you raise up a child in the ways that they'll be, they'll come back one day. And that's very, very true.
Yeah, I think there's that, but I also think that he's probably in one of those Jesus was a good teacher.
Oh, no.
Yeah, he
was.
Right now.
Well, and the thing about Dale was, I said, Dale, I talk to him once every couple of weeks minimum for an hour or so. And I said, I can't wrap my head around the message. It breaks it down a little. He said, David, let me tell you, you got to get Dr. Tony Evans, what's that? What do they call that? Commentary Bible.
Yeah.
Came out a year ago. Dr. Tony Evans, first African-American pastor to come out of the Dallas Seminary. Brilliant. Beyond belief. Has a church here.
Yeah, it's funny. I've never gone to his church, but I've watched his sermons.
Unbelievable. Old school kind of, but he's brilliant. Way he ties it in. So he says, when you get the book, order it in. I got it for like $27 on Amazon. Order it in, start in Revelations. I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? Start in Revelations? I never could understand. He goes, then go to Isaiah because Isaiah talks all about Revelations. Okay, I get it. I started reading it. I couldn't put it down until I finished Revelation. For the first time in my life, everything came out. Tony Evans is a brilliant person in bringing out what they're saying and what it means.
Yeah.
And I'd always thought that the book of Revelations was a whole thing about fear and you better be fire. It's a book of praise.
Yeah. It's interesting because, see, you grew up in a time You're the same. My father's 62, so you're the exact same
Okay.
age as my father.
Wow. Feel
Pretty
old
much.
now.
And which means I'm probably the same age as your son, right? Or
My
around there.
son's 27.
I'm 27. Yeah.
He was
Okay.
1995?
94.
94.
March.
So he's 26.
Okay.
He'll be 27, right?
Huh?
He'll be 27
When's his birthday?
May 5th.
Yeah, so he'll be 27 in May then.
Yeah, that's right.
So when I didn't understand something in the Bible, which there's still a lot I don't understand, and I have commentaries which help a lot, recommend anyone. I'm just able to Google it and find blog posts and find, like
Sure.
YouTube videos, all this.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's like you grew up in Jersey where that wasn't depending on where you grew up, some people said don't even look outside the Bible. Like
No, they
the
did.
King James Bible
Oh, no.
only, and and so all these
Bible
words you don't
thumper.
understand.
Oh, big time.
And so it's just it's sad because it's interesting, and I feel how grateful I am to be able to just
Time
YouTube
like
something.
this.
Yeah,
Exactly. For a time like this. And isn't it odd that we have more information now that we can get our hands on about God in the world in general? For the majority of it, like almost forget Europe. Europe's almost gone. It's really sad. But even the U.S., it's like, what are the numbers? Less than 40-something% believe.
yeah. I mean,
How does that happen? That shows you the deception. So here's cool. You'll appreciate this. It goes back to the sales again, but now it's a God salesman, right? And I don't want to come off as a preacher when I do this to these things. So when I finish my last effect, I say, how many hands? Just curious. Let me see a show of hands. How many folks leave here tonight when we're finished here? How many of you are going to leave here tonight and you think, that guy's got a gift? I mean, I just told this guy what his dog was when he was 8 years old and what he looked like and whose favorite in the family was. And they're like, all the stuff they've seen, I said, think that I have a gift that's a little something extra. And every hand goes, man, female, it doesn't matter. Now, this is not a thing just for kids either at all. In fact, I told him I'd rather it be a certain age, because I don't want, this is not a kiddie show. And the hands go up. And I said, well, let me tell you, I deceived you tonight. I said, I deceived you. I'm an honest liar. I deceived you for the purpose of making you go, wow, and amazing you and making you go, how does he do that? But sadly, the real deceiver deceives you on a daily basis for the single purpose of deceiving you of eternal life, taking that, destroying that from you, robbing that from you. I said, I want you to think about it for a second. Here, this high school educated, barely educated out of college guy comes up here and makes you think he's got some kind of gifts for even a split second. How much easier is it for the deceiver that's been doing it ever since his conception?
yeah.
I said, think about it. I said, and a lot of people this opened to me the other day, that a lot of people think the first deception was with Adam and Eve. But when you really think about it, and I've never read this anywhere, it just occurred to me the other day. When you think about it, the first deception was when Satan got all those other angels to believe him and they were all kicked out. It started up there. Think about it. And then Satan went to Christ 3 times and tried to tempt him. So he's got some, as the Jewish people say, chutzpah, for a nicer word. So when you think about that, he's constantly, every deception that he comes in, condemnation is not from God.
Yeah.
Yet we all feel it all the time. And the minute I do, I know where it's coming from. Man, I just got to pray. Before I came in here today, I said, God, whatever you want me to do, just use me. I said, I don't know what it's about, what it's going to be for, who's going to hear it. If one person hears it. And I'm not here to turn this thing into because you've heard my whole thing. And not that I even say it until you brought something up.
Yeah.
So, but I make no qualms once it comes up. I used to.
Yeah.
But I'll do anything for you. I'll help you any way I can. But I'll cut off a relationship if you're going to mock me. That's when I draw the line. Then there's no relationship. I'll continue to pray for you because, as believers, I don't think we should give up on one person. You don't want one single person leaving this life not sure, because I can't even imagine that now. And I say this too. When I fell off there and lost my sight, I had a guy ask me the other day, man, I bet you'd give anything, wouldn't you? I said, you know what? I've thought about that. And I'm going to tell you right now. If I was going to go and end up where I think was going to happen to me, I would willingly continue to be in the position I'm at, because when I lost my physical sight in this eye, it opened my spiritual eyes.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't change that for a thing.
Eyes to see, ears to hear.
Yeah. And I'd lose it completely if I had to. I mean, you look at Richard, and I'll tell you, if you're ever fortunate enough to get Richard Turner to do this, Richard will no doubt bring it up way before I did. Richard is a strong believer, and he has witnessed to some of the strongest atheists in our business.
Yeah, I mean, Tim Ferriss, he's on Tim Ferriss's podcast.
So he is a strong believer. So again, I always leave it with people and tell them that I'll share anything I can. I'm not a preacher, but I help them pray through anything. I'll and if they don't, they can laugh at me and go, I've got friends who, and you're crazy. I don't believe in that stuff. Well, that's fine. But I'm going to keep praying for you, and I'm going to keep praying that God does some type of a work that lets you see. It's not the greatest thing I get is when guys in my business that say, that are well-known guys, Magee, why do you give up to some deity that's not your talent? Man, you're such a talented guy. That name thing you do, this thing, you have so many great improvisation. I said, dude, that's where I get it.
Yeah. I think there's this lack of understanding that following Jesus is not a set of beliefs. It's a relationship.
That's it.
And that you feel in your body.
Yeah, I'm not religious.
Yeah. And
no,
so
I tell them.
I think a lot of people look at this as, like right now it's Ramadan. And so a lot of people look at it as like, okay, so y'all are going to get in, they're getting up at, I guess from 4 a.m. till 7 p.m. they can't eat. So before 4 and after 7. And they're doing all these rituals and all these, Catholic Church, for example, the whole,
everything.
I didn't grow up Catholic, so I don't know the.
Sure.
I don't mean that. I was doing this one time. People thought I was like, no, I just don't know Father, Son, Holy. I don't know how it goes.
Yeah, with the whole right.
Yeah. And so I was like, that's religion.
Yeah.
And nowhere in Jesus' teachings or in the Old Testament do I be like, hey, tap your heart. Put together these things, and it's just like, to me, it's a relationship with Jesus is where it comes down to.
That's all that it is. It's a total relationship and dependency. And I think that's the biggest drawback for a lot of brilliant people. And a lot of these guys that are performers or friends of mine are brilliant, and they don't want to, they don't want to give up.
Yeah. They don't want to submit themselves.
That was the hardest thing.
And I struggle with it too.
I do too. I do on a daily basis. I do. I've had to learn how to get out of a prayer thing about me now. So what I do is I have a notebook. When I hear anybody sick or any friends of mine, Barbara and I'll write it down. And I've got it now pages full. And I call them by name, at night before we go to bed. We'll sit and we'll pray. And man, it does so much good for me. You got to learn to get away out of yourself and keep giving back to others. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to go out another step. I think all the stuff that we're going, I don't get political. That was one of the things I said, just because I don't want to offend anybody. I have my beliefs, but I'm going to make a strong statement and leave it in or not. And I'm going to say that I even believe what we're going through in this country with all the racial problems that we're having is because of sin of the heart. Hateful people that can't learn to love everybody.
Yeah.
No matter what color they are, no matter what their name is, no matter what they're from. You have got to learn. I grew up in Shreveport, Louisiana, right? I can sit here and name you because I had all of the friends that I had growing up that were black friends. I can tell you my favorite band was Maurice White, Philip Bailey, the Earth, Wind, and Fire. I used to love the Isley Brothers. I love the Barkays. I love groups that most white people have never even heard of, right? So I learned a culture. Stevie Wonder was and I got to meet all
comedian
these.
Gary Owen.
Yeah.
So his whole audience is black. I love his comedy. I go there. I was the only white guy there.
Yeah. So that's the thing. So you have this. This is all part of the big plan. Racism is, in my belief, it's a sin, and it all comes from Satan.
Yeah.
And if he can divide and conquer, and we're finding it on both sides of the aisle.
Yeah. Well, we look at Martin Luther King Jr.'s movement, and it was started in churches.
Going to find people who were some of the worst, and this is in all cultures, the white culture, the black culture, the Jewish culture, not in just color, but culture, who were the worst in the world at sending some of the Jews off to be Jewish people, sold them out.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all through history. So there were black people that sell out black people. There are white people that sell out white people, both on both sides. There are always going to be those type of people. And the only way we're ever going to get rid of all of this is to change our hearts. Yeah. And to say, look at a person, don't see it. And I've had to learn. I've learned because there are parts in my life, but that's the hardest part, is to be honest with yourself.
How did your marriage change when you rededicated your life to Christ?
It really got strong. It really got strong. And how it got strong was that we would pray together. We're talking more. I'm learning, and I say I'm learning because it's a learning curve. I'm learning to be more respectful. I'm still learning of my wife, of certain issues and certain things, but it's a change of your heart. You have to give up. You have to submit. That's what it all comes back to, the same thing. But we have a better relationship than we ever have. And we don't really fight, but we'll still fuss and disagree about some things. I tell her all the time, you don't have to pressure me to lift my hands in church or something. If I don't want to do it, I'm not going to do it. If I do it, I do it. When it comes to me and I feel like it's real, but I'm not doing it for show.
Yeah.
I saw a girl at Gateway one day, and she got down, she came out of the aisle, and she was crippled. She had had a stroke or was something, and real bad. And she got down during the praise and worship, and she struggled to get down on her knees, and she got down on her face and her knees. Wow, man, that just hit me like a ton of bricks. And I'll tell you why. Here's a woman who is visually crippled, all right? Body is just destroyed. And she's getting down on her hands and her face and thanking God. Now, how could anybody not see that and say, there's got to be something to that? This woman, she is surrendered, even in her position. So when I'm looking back at some little thing happen, my back hurting or my leg, and I'm thinking, God, who am I? Look at this, how thankful in her position. So that's how we've got to learn to be. Thankful in any position.
Yeah.
Not just what the hardest thing I've had to learn to do was be thankful and praise in the good, but the bad. That's the hard lesson. Yeah. Brother, you talking about praising God when you're going through a horrible situation. You're almost like, how do I even muster the faith? That's what changed.
I actually struggle with kind of the opposite of where I get out of my spiritual routines when things are going good and back into them when they're going bad, which I think a lot of people do. And so it's like, for me, I feel like sometimes God wants, I feel like God's leading me to where things aren't great, so I'll turn my attention back to Him.
I fully believe that we're going through a time right now, and we're going to, just like the children of Israel, we're going to get what we deserve, and we're all in that together.
Yeah.
So it's just not one or two people. We're all going to have to suffer through it, as did the believers. But there's that promise. Like I said, I don't worry about it because I know what's going to happen. I know what's going to happen at the end of the day. I've read the book. So I want to be out of here. I'll tell you one thing, man, if you're a Christian and you're not right with God and you're a lukewater Christian and there's a chance that you stay on this earth when that starts to happen, the tribulation starts, the 7 years, when I read that, man, and that opened up in Dr. Tony Evans' book, that really opened my eyes, and I said, holy smoke, man, no way. I got to start thinking of everything I do. Every day now, I get up, I thank God, and I say, God, help me not to do this. Because I still have my battles, because it's flesh. I have to say, Lord, keep me off looking at stuff I don't need to look at on the internet. Don't let my mind go to there. Keep me off that. I think we got to give it to Him. Because I can't do it. There are things I cannot do. Like I'm working on losing this 20, 25 pounds. I got up this morning and said, God, I need you today. You got to keep me.
We got you fresh.
I know. I'm eating fruit. Listen, 3 weeks ago I would have said, have me a cheeseburger. Yeah. But I'm trying to do this 1 meal a day deal with shake.
Okay.
With a good, really heavy duty vegan protein shake. I'm trying to do 1 meal a day deal. And because I believe Johnny always told me, Mama, he said, here's one thing being a mentalist. You don't have big props. And he says, you got to come out on that stage and look like 100. You got to look cut. You got to look defined. You got to look your best, because that's what they see. And it's a young man's game. So I have to stay in shape. I have to take care of myself. And I think that's biblical too, though, to be honest with you.
Yeah. The Baptists in general want to criticize people for drinking and then never mention that gluttony exists.
Yeah. No.
I mean, I've been to these churches with these 400-pound pastors and thought, I feel like...
No. Listen, here's the thing, man. It blows my mind. The Pentecostal I grew up in, they go to church and then they'd go out and their hair is bunned up and they wear, pantyhose and women can't shave their legs and all this kind of crazy stuff. All this legalism. Yet they'll go into a buffet and clean it out, and they all weigh 350, 400. And it's all, it's like that, man. It's like that. And we just that's what I say about the religiousness and the legalism, man. Yeah. Get rid of all that stuff, but do what you think. This is a temple, The thing was, and again, I don't want to get off on this subject, but people wearing the mask and all the stuff. It's fine. I respect it. I go to Walmart, I wear the mask, I do the stuff. But I had a guy one day came up and my mask was below my nose. And this guy came up and he was easily 350, 380. And he had the kind of, when you have the diabetes and you have the cracks in the back of your heel. And I looked at him, I felt bad for him. The guy comes over and he looks at me, he goes, hey, you really need to not be a blankety blank and put that thing over your nose. And I said, pal, I appreciate that. I said, I put it up. I said, can I share something with you? I said, you're scared of this thing. Yeah, I've got underlying conditions. Your immune system. Yeah. I said, I've gone through that. I said, I was overweight. I said, look in my basket though. I've got that at the point I had spinach. I had Fuji apples. I had bananas. I had, romaine. I had a bunch of different, and some salmon. I said, that's what I'm taking on couscous. I said, that's the worst of it. Quinoa. It wasn't couscous. I switched from couscous to quinoa because it's better for you, they say. So, his deal, he had two things of pop hanging over the sides. Yes. He's got Cheetos, Doritos, he's got weenies, pizzas, Twinkies. And I'm looking at this and I said, hey, pal, I said, you need to build your immune system. If you really respect that, do what you can do to build your immune system. That means going to mean losing weight. Well, he kind of looked at me and I said, I'm not being rude. I'm just being honest with you, sharing with you what I think will help you. Are you going to be honest with people, or could I just start cursing at him and be a real jerk? Like, how dare you?
It's one of those things of like, you can say you care about people. You can say that I'm wearing a mask because I care about people, or I'm shutting down a city because I care about people. But if you care about people, you're not going to shut down gyms that allow people to work out and build their immune system and be healthy.
A doctor friend of mine had the greatest thing, Dr. Colbert, brilliant guy, Don Colbert. And Don said to me, Dave, do you know what's blows my mind? All these people that are just really wearing people out about wear them out and we got to get over. He says, those people all adhere to that, but they're not eating right. They're doing nothing. They're getting heavy and they're becoming a burden on the insurance industry. Why do you think your insurance prices are going up? He says, so how much do they really care about you? Man, I'd never thought of that like that. Yeah. Do you think about it? That makes a lot of sense. Well, if you say, why are you doing this to me? Well, it's because I care about people. Do you? Yeah. Me too. Yeah. My insurance is out the roof right now. I'm a self-employed guy.
Does your neighborhood have an HOA?
Yeah, we do. It's not mandatory.
Okay. Do you have anyone? You ever typically the guy that runs for president of the HOA is a guy that's never had power in any way, shape, or form before.
No, I know.
Yeah. And that's the same guy that's just like, yeah, I really care about COVID. It's like, no, dude, for the first time in your life, you've been able to boss somebody around and you can't wait.
Yeah. No, and it is. And that's what everybody's become, an HOA person.
Because, my thing is I've shared this with everyone, which is I get being scared of COVID.
Absolutely.
I'm personally not. You're scared of it, that's fine, whatever.
Absolutely.
But if you're scared of it, you need to wear an N95.
Yes.
Because that's the only thing that will stop the virus.
Not
Stanford study came out yesterday.
Yeah.
It just said cloth face masks do nothing.
No,
which there were already unproven studies, but now this is like a certified study that shows this. So there's one is I need wear an N95 and then wear goggles because it can only get in through your nose and through your eyes. It's the only way.
Well, a friend. So the truth is, it's a real thing. I hope when it's over that they really focus on how this happened.
Yeah.
That's a big thing for me.
Yeah, I mean,
It's important that we know in the world, the whole world knows. This wasn't just the U.S. or just Canada or China.
Yeah,
the world.
There's this weird, everybody's so politically driven. So they can't, you can't just say that, when I say that, hey, I don't believe it came from a bat. I believe it was manufactured in a lab. It maybe originally came from
right.
But when you look at,
but that's your belief, then that's not even a political thing.
Like Eric Weinstein, who's like a professor, and he was talking about look, it's just not possible that it can age this quickly, that it can go from a bat to human that quickly, and how powerful it is. And it's I get it. I had COVID. It was bad. I had every single symptom. I lost my sense of taste for 3 weeks, my sense of smell for 5 weeks. I had body aches. I had everything. And so I've had COVID, and it sucked. But guess what? I got over it.
Yeah.
And the thing is when people look at these numbers, they say, okay, there's a 2% death rate. Okay, take out people over 70, drops to about 0.3%. All right, now take out people with 2 or more pre-existing conditions. It drops to 0.01. It's just and so it's everybody's manipulating the data.
We think we had it when we got back before it was even known in January that year from Cancun. We think we both had it because we had a cough that we couldn't chase. But because they know now for a fact that it was here back in early October and November, maybe even September. Now, the way they know that, which is so amazing, is they had the scopes from the satellites. And they went back and they looked on Google. This is how brilliant people are. They looked on Google and they looked up what was the number one Google search in China in June and July of that year before. And it was cough, diarrhea, and fever. Now, having said that, they looked and saw the year before it happened, the hospital had about 85 cars. In June and July of that year, when they took the satellite of it, it was 800 cars. The place was packed. They knew what they were doing then. They had it then. It was an outbreak.
Yeah.
We didn't know about it until December or hear about it.
Yeah. It's such
It was kept, no matter how it happened, what had happened, if that was purpose. I don't know any of that stuff. I don't know that we ever will. But I think we're going to learn a lot of stuff about this in the next few years, just like this study that came out.
Yeah. I mean, I look at this, how I look at 9/11. When you look at 9/11, I say the outcome of 9/11 is that we don't have privacy anymore.
Right.
That is the outcome of 9/11. Whether it's not political, it's just facts. Again, Bush was president. So you can go either way with this. It's we don't have privacy anymore.
Exactly.
And so the outcome of COVID is one of two things. One, people get 100 vaccines a year. They just, for every little thing that happens, they want to stick their arm.
Have you gotten it?
No, of course not. I'm not. So because I will publish this, let me clarify my point on why I'm not getting the vaccine. I don't get the flu shot.
I don't either.
I feel very healthy. Yeah. I feel fine. I'm not high risk, not anything else. But if you do research, SARS type 2 viruses, we've been trying to come up with a vaccine on for about 15 years. Right. And every time we test one, we find that it immediately solves the problem. Right. But then it weakens the immune system where the person dies of a cold, or not the person, but the rat, the mice die of anything that comes that weakens. So if you can't run a DMV, if you can't create and run a DMV, if you can't get people their driver's license, right now in Texas, it is a 6-month wait to get your driver's license, to go get a driver's license. So if the U.S. government can't run a DMV, then I sure as hell do not trust them partnering with for-profit corporations to give a vaccine that's been tested for a few months, and if things go wrong, you can't sue them.
Right.
For example, and if I hire a company to build a home and my home collapses, I want to be able to sue the builder.
Sure.
That's just how it works.
But you can't with vaccines.
Yeah. So my reason is nothing to not to say it doesn't work. It's to say I don't think it's proven enough, and I don't like that I have no recourse if things go wrong with it. And then third point, I am young, I am healthy, and that almost no one my age has died. Almost no one. The people that have lots of pre-existing conditions, they might have died of stage 4 cancer, but had COVID. Nobody dies of cancer. What they typically, they have cancer and they get pneumonia, they get something else. Their immune system is already so weak from the cancer, and they die of that. And we just put that on cause of death and then below like a secondary reason. Well, when COVID happened in March, CDC changed death certificates to where you just can mark it yes or no on a COVID death, and you can't go into reasons.
It's crazy. We're going to learn a lot of things, I think. Things we did good, things we didn't do good, do well. I think we're going to have an eye-opening. But there again, I think we're so divided now, it won't make any difference. People are going to believe what they're going to believe on either side. And I see the truth on both sides. Yeah, I see the lies on both sides. You know, if I tell people now I'm so discouraged, I just am more of an independent than anything.
Yeah, my mom is just always angry, but she watches the news like 5 hours a day.
I know,
and so I say like, you know, it's working. Like what the news's goal is, which I think is to like.
Yeah, media is a divide. They're working hard
I'm like, it works great. Like mom's a great case study for that. I don't know anything that's happening. I'm sure I'll find out via social media the Chavez decision today. I'm sure I'll find that out. But other than that, I try not to read the news because there's nothing nothing that ever benefits my life comes from it.
Right. No, and you're right. It all goes back to that deal that we said earlier. The media, politics, everything. It's all man trying to do.
Yeah.
If people just let go. And just, let go and let God have his way. But we can't because we don't want authority. We don't want to be told what to do. We don't want to be.
Yeah.
I don't have any problem with that anymore. I know what I've got to do. And it's a submission, but it's a good thing. It's a good place. It really is. It's a great place, So I can't think of any better place to be. So I know what the story is going to be at the end. So that's why I can sleep at night. I know.
Have you ever seen that Francis Chan rope thing? So he's got this rope that goes around the whole building, and he's got a little piece of red tape on the rope.
Right.
And so he's like, this red tape represents our time on Earth.
Right.
And
anything else
is eternity after this. And he goes, and people, they look at me and they go, oh, it's so crazy that you don't want a nice car. And it's so crazy that you want to go travel and tell people about Jesus. It's so crazy. And I'm going, you're so crazy.
If you really believed it, that's the whole thing. Here's my belief. If you really believe it and you buy into it all and you believe
go and make disciples of all nations.
Your job is disciple everybody and love everybody.
Yeah.
How can you not? I mean, it's
and so
crazy.
Then everything else is just a fighting with flesh and fighting with ego and fighting with, for me, that's it. It's like when I look at when I don't share the gospel or when I lash out or whatever the case is, it's all just fighting with myself.
It's me, my ego. Some guy cuts me off in line. I'm going to catch up with him and cut him off, or I'm going to, do this or that. No more. Just let it go.
No, now that's what I'm most thankful for is that I am, even when I haven't been a strong believer, thankfully I've always believed in a higher being and that I need to honor God in my actions somewhat. Because I'm the vindictive type. Like, I just know that if I didn't know God, I would slash people's tires that cut me off. I know I'm that type.
And that's the same with me. And we all battle with that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, we all battle. We're all different. We all battle with it. But that's what you have to do. And I think it just comes at the end of the day. You just got to say, Lord, I can't do it. I got to have help. I just can't do it. And that's my thing. And again, if somebody doesn't want to believe that, I can't. I'm not going to sit and beat him over the head. I want to live it through an example then and say, that guy's got something. It's just like when I saw Tim Akers. I said, that is because I knew him. We were kind of two peas in a pod. And I knew about his indiscretions. And I said, wow, this is real. This is the real deal. There is a God, a Holy Spirit. There has to be, because it's the only thing that could change that. I knew where he was headed. I knew what he had done. Man, I tell you, when you have to sit down and you have to go through everything and tell your wife everything and everybody, that's wow. And then they stay with you. Yeah, that's God only. That's only God. And it's going to happen at some point to everybody. You're either going to like it or you're not going to like it.
Yeah, we look at who's the guy that went to the grave, Indian guy. He had the massage parlors. Was real famous.
Ravi Zachariah.
Yeah.
Ravi Zachariah. Listen, I had prayed after he died. I said, God, why would you take such a great apologetic? I said, he's been so great for getting your word out. He dies of a brain tumor. And I'm like, well, it kind of came out. It kind of, man, it made me think God kind of took him out because you're not going to fool me. You're not make a fool of me. You're not going to live that way. Why does a guy like that need massage parlors, and he's having, all this stuff with women and telling them, let's pray before we have sex. How crazy is this? How crazy is it? But that shows you, even following God, that shows you there's still
because I look at my times where I've done bad things that have dishonored God, and the last thing I want to talk about or think about or ever mentioned is God.
I know.
A girl on Instagram was like, hey, like I love she's like a big Ravi Zachariah. I guess she hasn't kept track. So she was like, hey, have you ever read this book by him? It's really good. And I wrote back, I don't think you know what has happened.
But the sad thing is everything he spoke and stated was truth.
Yeah.
And amazing. And it was ordained stuff. He just got big over his own. And that's what happens. Again, people put their eyes on men. He's a man. He's flesh.
So I found out several years ago that he lied about his degrees. He didn't have degrees. And so when I had found that out, I was just like, I don't really like this guy.
They tried to come up against him 2 or 3 different times. And as my wife said, that was God saying to him, look, here's your opportunity.
Yeah.
Come clean. And let's start it and show them that you're just like they are. We can use this and we can really build this. And he didn't. He was so arrogant.
Do you know Nate Larkin?
The name is familiar.
Author, lives in Franklin, Tennessee. He's done an I Am Second video, which that's the guy who started Interstate Battery started
Norm
I Am
Miller
Second, right?
I Am Second, yeah. Fun
I love this.
Yeah.
But anyway, he talks about, he was like, I could have been him because he was essentially a pastor, Gino's wife, all these things, and got scared of getting caught. So he left and joined the business world and then eventually came clean. Everything came out, but it was different. He's like, if my ministry was successful, it might have been a different thing.
It's amazing. And thank God, like I said, it happens differently to everybody. And we all have our own stories. And that's why I'm learning not to judge, because I haven't walked in their shoes. I haven't had their life. I don't know what it's been.
Yeah, all we have is our own.
That's it. All I can do is love them. And that's what God said. And that's the hardest thing, too, for me. Not to love them, but, not being judgmental, just stopping back and saying, who do you think you are? Just accept them.
Yeah.
Because that's what Christ does.
Yeah, there's something about the freedom we find in ourselves when we can allow people to be themselves around us.
Exactly. Yeah. And be honest with them. And again, I don't, it's just like the COVID thing. I may or may not agree with somebody, but we can agree to disagree. Sadly, I think we're in a time in this world, in this culture, where we can no longer agree to disagree. It's either you believe me or you're this and jerk.
Well, look at what's his name? Piers Morgan.
Exactly.
Super liberal. There's one thing he won't fold on of her, the former Meghan Markle, whatever.
Same thing with Sharon Osbourne.
Yeah, and so all these, there's this, my good friend Sky, he said this, and I think this is how a lot of people are. He was like, I was considered a middle left when Obama was president.
Right.
Nothing has changed in my beliefs, and now I'm alt-right.
Wow.
There's just this, the whole pendulum is just shifted about everything.
Wow. That's crazy. Well, I know it's and it's going to shift again. And it's going to shift because there's no certainty.
Yeah.
Again, I hate to beat the Bible, but I mean, there is one certainty. There's one certainty. Yeah. We're all going to die. We're all going to die. And Mark Cuban can die, and he can leave all those billions that he's going to be in the dirt just like you and I.
Yeah.
He's going to start just like he entered, just like he came. What did he do with that time?
Yeah.
And he's either going to believe, and he's going to stand before God one day, just like all of us are, and he's going to say, welcome, my good and faithful servant, or he's going to say, I do not know you. I don't want to be on that end.
Evildoer, yeah.
Yeah,
Ugh.
I don't want to be on that end.
And I think the scariest part about that is he goes, Lord, didn't I cry your name? Didn't I heal people in your name? Didn't I?
Yeah, no.
And he doesn't deny that they did that.
I know.
He just says, depart from me, you evildoer, I never knew you. Just
yeah, I know, because it's not real. It's got to be on here. It doesn't matter what anybody else sees or thinks.
Yeah. Who's that crazy guy in Texas who's got his own jet? He's got crazy eyes. He's a pastor.
You talking
Kenneth
about
Copeland? Yeah.
Yeah.
How do people like that even get followings? That guy is so creepy.
It's a whole. I'm telling you, you just got to. You know what you got to do at the end of the day. Again, and it's the hardest part for me. This is what I'm learning. You just got to pray for those people. They need something.
I know.
I know.
Sometimes you see that, you're like, can I just pray for someone else?
Yeah. You think, what could you do with that money from those jets? What could you do with the money from the houses? These are, and
it's not even that. I don't think there's even. It's the thing is how did you go about getting the money? I don't think there's a problem with having 100 jets, 100 homes, and being a pastor. I really don't. I think the issue is when you tell people, if you love God too, you'll get this. Like when this false
wealth, health, and wealth
or
stuff.
Because I'm so good at my job, you need to donate so I can have this. Yeah, this
and you'll
just
get
weird.
It. That's not it. There's nothing. Again, it goes back. You don't need Kenneth Copeland. You don't need any of those people. You need a personal relationship.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, are you really spending time away on your own with God, searching? And here's what I think about the Bible. God didn't make gold just to lay on top of the ground for everybody on earth. He buried it, right? Same with the Bible. You have to dig into that Bible. You got to dig into that word, and you got to learn.
Use the internet.
And use the internet. Yeah, if you need to use the internet, if you find anything you need, there's no excuse anymore for anybody not finding out what they need to find out.
Thank you so much for coming on. This is a really good time. I was praying this morning. I was like, hey, I don't really know anything about this guy, God. Hope it goes well.
Yeah. Well, we got some coins. We got Abraham Lincoln, and we got secured. We know where we're going, right?
This is so good.
Awesome.